It's welcome. We're all being recorded now, so you better behave. No one takes their clothes off, please. Okay, let's all be nice. So because this meeting is being recorded, now I'm making noise here. Well, that's my calendar telling me we have a session now. That's helpful. So because this meeting is being recorded, it would be great if you guys, when you come in, just stay on mute. And whenever you want to ask a question, you can obviously unmute yourself and always feel free to ask a question. I am going to share a screen in a little bit because I'll walk you through a tiny little PowerPoint presentation. And if you hear any noise around me, that's because my dog is here with me in my office, and sometimes he makes little noises. So just FYI. And if for whatever reason anyone cannot hear me or if I'm going too fast or if something isn't clear, always feel free to stop me. I don't necessarily always look at the chat button because while I give the presentation, I'm going to look at a different screen that's right next to this one. So if I miss a question on the chat, just bug me and ask me the question if I miss it, okay? So first of all, welcome to Entertainment Finance. First, how do they call this at UCLA? From first dollar to profit distribution. So what you're going to learn in the class is exactly that. You're going to learn every step that is necessary for you to be able to put a project together in a way that can be profitable for you and the project, and ideally your investor if you have investors. The focus on this class is not just about how a project is put together, what a project should entail in order to be green lightable, for lack of a better word, but also what the important steps are for you to understand as you make all these various contracts with distributors and investors and buyers and you know, brand integration companies and your writers and your producers and whoever else is in the value chain that you're going to be meeting when you put a project together. We'll talk about in this course also, you know, what kind of terms should you be avoiding, what is, you know, a little questionable. So you learn at least the basics of dealing with these relationship end agreements, I should say. I should always say, and this is clear obviously, but I'm going to tell you anyway, I'm not a lawyer, so I can't give you legal advice. But what I can do and what I will do is I will share my personal experience that will include obviously legal aspects, because I too had to learn all this, and I made many mistakes on my path of doing this for now 20 some years. So the way I do this may not be the way other producers have realized their film and television shows. I've done about 40 some film and television projects by now, budget, you know, altogether maybe like around $250 million in production volume. So I've done a few things, and I've shot in a lot of places, not just in the US. And I'll share my experience with you in the way I put projects together, in the way I deal with my investors, in the way I buy projects from other producers, because I'm also co-financing projects with producers. So in that sense, I'm, you know, also on the side of the investor, not just on the side of the producer. And because I fill those two roles, being an investor, being a film financier and a television financier, but also being a producer, I look at things from both sides. I look at it from what do I as a producer have to do in order to get this project financed? And I look at it, what do I as an investor or buyer of a project look at in order for this project to make sense for me and be profitable? So the way I work is therefore a little different than most producers work, because many producers out there, and many executives you might encounter, do one or the other. They either produce or they finance. So they don't usually do both. So that's why when I do things, they might be a little different than what you're experiencing in the world or what you have experienced so far in the world. But I will point that out, and I will say to you, here are the options. This is what I did, but here is what you could do, or here's what I would do if I would be in your shoes. And that brings me to the next thing. If you have something that you're working on, and if you have questions about something that is right now important to you, you don't need to wait for office hours. Send me an email, we'll set up a time to speak, and we'll make it so that it's mutually workable for both of us, for both our schedules. So I'm fairly available throughout this entire semester to answer questions, not just about the modules, that's a given, but also about anything you're working on or anything that you're stumbling over. So never be shy, just email me on Canvas ideally, because that's where I look first. If you send me an email, maybe I see it, maybe I don't. So Canvas is the easiest way to get me during this course. Afterwards, I will share my regular company email with you, and then you can always email me there and we stay in touch. I do stay in touch with many of my course participants over the years because sometimes they have projects that we do. So, you know, it's not to say that this is the only time, you know, you're going to get this advice. Because what's going to happen is you're going to learn a lot of materials that will be, you know, you might understand it right now, right this minute. And then later, 2 years later, you put a project together and you're like, hold on a second. How was it again? What am I supposed to be doing again? So always feel free to stay in touch with me afterwards or let me know anything that I can help with. And there are a few people actually in this course that I know from prior work that we have done together. So feel free to bug me afterwards as well. I'm going to now try to share screen. So what I'm doing today is, so just so you guys know, I'm going to run through the basics of some things that are going to be in the modules. I'm going to give you a few pointers that I think are important for you as you go into this course, just conceptually to understand. And then I'd like to know a little bit about you. So I have no idea right now how long the session is going to take because we are right now combining the classes. So it's not just the class that you're in, but it's also the other class, same class, of course, where we have other course participants. So the beautiful thing here, you're going to meet more people than you were actually meeting in your group. And on that note, I want to say this link that you are on right now is available for you to also maybe meet half an hour before our Saturday class to just kind of check with each other, get to know each other, do a little network with each other. Networking is very important. So you get to meet people that are in your course, you get to meet people that are in the other course. So you get to meet a lot of people who do a lot of things in different stages of their career, and you can share your experience with them. You can share, you know, how things, you know, Jeanette is crazy, this course is way too hard. You can share things like that. But you can also share things about, you know, what you're doing, what you're working on. That was my phone, I should switch that off. So just feel free to get online half an hour earlier or so and just, you know, on those Saturdays and just chat with each other. The plan is to do this class every second week on a Saturday at 10 o'clock. So I'm trying to keep that time frame. Again, this is an online class, and because it is an online class, fully online, these live sessions are actually officially not part of the course. The reason why I do them as a courtesy is because I have experienced over the years of doing this online class that this is a nice way to connect with you guys and also a good way to work with the modules a little more in detail and answer questions that many people have that might be the same questions. So for that reason, because I'm not supposed to be doing it, but I'm doing it anyway, there's no such thing like not supposed to be doing it. I'm just doing it as a courtesy. But because I'm doing it as a courtesy, feel free, you know, if you can make it, you can make it. But they are being recorded, and so you can watch the show, I was about to say. You can watch the session at any time when you lie on your sofa, you have a glass of wine, just enjoy the video. So it's not mandatory to be here. It might be mandatory with other classes. This is a class that it's structured in a way that theoretically you don't need to be looking at this. But as I said, I have found it to be helpful for some people, and I want to just offer that to you as well. All right, I'm going to try to rock and roll and get maybe our second screen on. Let me try to do this real quick here. Any questions so far before I dive into this, dive into things? No, that's good. Let me just make sure everyone is here. Daniel, you're not muted. I'm going to mute you. I'm just going to make sure everyone is muted real quick. Who else is not muted? I'm just going to look through the list. Everyone else is muted. Okay. All right, let me start sharing the screen here. Didn't work. Let's try this again. I want to share this screen. Oh, come on, people. Seriously.
We see your screen.
Do you
I
see
see
the
it.
PowerPoint presentation?
Yes.
Yes, I see it as well.
Yeah, because
I see it too.
okay, it doesn't give me the green thing around it, which just makes me a little nervous. But you do see something that says entertainment finance from first dollar to distribution of profits. You see me moving a cursor here?
Yes.
Yes.
I think you're sharing your entire desktop. That's why you don't see the green thing.
Oh,
Yeah.
let me try that. Well, the desktop is fine. I just, want to share the desktop part where the PowerPoint presentation is. So you see the PowerPoint and you see it clearly, yeah?
Yes.
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 I'm not going to do it in presentation mode because I want to move around in this thing a little bit. Perfect. Well, thank you for that. So we're going to talk about a few things today that are kind of the basics of the entire film finance universe. And when I say film finance, I also talk about television because there's a lot of similarities and there are some differences, which I will point out. So first I want to talk about the differences, the main difference between the major studio system and the independent film finance system. So the independent system. In the first week of the module, which you went through, and I wanted you to go through that so you get a feel for how the course goes and flows, you've seen a little bit about, the differences, the main things. We'll talk about that a little more. Distribution and sales is something that I'd like to dive into today, and I'm also going to talk to you about the basics of a finance plan, and then we're going to actually apply that for a project. So first, let's talk about a few things in the course. I think many of you have given me the entrance survey. Whoever has not given me the entrance survey, please do me a favor, send that over. I'd like to always adjust the course a little bit to the people that are actually in the course, so I don't bore you to death. We do have a Facebook page where all the course participants that ever took this class are basically in a group, and they share information, not just about the class, but as they go forward, as they do their projects, as they have different jobs, how they move around. So it's a great thing for you to just go and sign on. You have to mention this course and you have to let me know that you're in it, otherwise the site will not accept you. We do have a book. If you haven't ordered it, I would like you to do that. There are different ways of ordering it. So if you have questions about how to get it, just email me. All the quizzes and assignments are submitted online. I also want to talk about real quick the videos on this course. What I did for this course, I interviewed, I think it's about 18 or 20 industry executives that I've worked with. They include investors, bankers, distribution executives, producers, writers, directors, buyers. So anyone you could ever, talent agents, so anyone you could ever get in contact with is kind of represented in those interviews. And those interviews were specifically produced for this course. So those guest speaker interviews, as I call them, these are the guest speakers, they're very important and essential for you to watch because they give you kind of a view of the industry today from their perspective, from every person's perspective that I have interviewed. And what you will find out is those views may not match. They may not match because you're talking to a different person who looks at different things from a different angle. So don't get confused by that. But I think it's important for you to know what their view is of the industry today, how they feel it, how they manage it, and how they kind of work their way around it. So you get an idea how they deal with challenges, which I think is hugely helpful. So please watch those videos. Don't just read the modules, watch the videos. Quizzes and assignments are online. You probably do something every week. So there's a little quiz at the end of every week, or there is an assignment at the end of every week. And you just submit it by Sunday night and you're good to go. So every week you have something small going on. We have extra credits. I have some suggested assignments, as I call them. These are kind of training finance plans for you. You can do them or not, it's up to you. They count towards extra credit. I did put a group project together. That group project is obviously not mandatory. Canvas system automatically put together 2 groups per course. So every group has about 10 or 12 people or something like that. It also established a group leader. Now, if you are automatically chosen to be a group leader and you really don't dig that role, you don't want to be a group leader, just let me know or discuss within your group if you want someone else. I can pick someone else, or you pick someone else. But let me know if you don't want to be the group leader, because the group leader is the person that I will communicate with about the group project. And the group project is you putting together a project in a way that you would present it to me, an investor, or to an industry executive. So it will include everything you learn in this entire class, and it will not be due until the end of the class. So every week you learn a little bit of something new and you can add it. So you can meet with your group using this Zoom link if you like, or you can do your own Zoom link. So whenever you set the times, do it whenever you guys can meet, but just organize yourselves a little bit. And the group leader is supposed to be doing that. It's supposed to be organizing the meetings for everyone. So you can use this link, but if someone else is on it, then you're going to have to pick a different slot, and you're certainly not going to use it on the day we're having our sessions here every Saturday. So feel free to do that. But again, if you don't want to be in a group and you want to do the project by yourself, you can do it. If you don't want to be in the group, you don't have to be in the group. And if you don't want to be a group leader, you let me know. I'm going to send an email today after our class to the group leaders in case they're not announced. I don't know how that works automatically, randomly, how Canvas does it, honestly. So I'm going to send an email to the group leaders, and we'll ask them if they want to be the group leader or not. And if they don't want to, then we'll just pick someone else. Okay. How long should the presentation be? Are you talking about the group presentation, Darren? The group project is described in detail on Canvas. So the presentation will include basically what a business plan or a pitch deck would include. It usually is anywhere between 10 to 20 pages, something like that, depending on how much you want to show. But we can talk about the group project in detail once you get more into it. It's basically a pitch deck or a business plan. That's what you're going to put together for an imaginary project that you guys, you know, make up. Could be a movie, could be TV show, could be anything you guys make up. But you're going to put together the content for the show. You're going to talk about your actors. You're going to talk about your target audience. You're going to talk about your plan for distribution. You're going to talk about your finance plan. You're going to talk about the risk mitigation strategies that you're applying. You're going to talk about the return of investment. You're going to talk about all the things that are important for an investor and an executive to know in order for them to greenlight your project. So what all these things are, you will learn about. You don't need to worry about that right now because you have 3 months to figure it out. Could it be a real project? Absolutely, yes. It could be a real project that you're working on. And you could do that. If you have something that you're working on, you can do that. I'm seeing messages coming in. That's what I'm responding to. So where are we? Extra credit. So that's that. Technical issues. Canvas is not perfect. So sometimes there are things like Canvas doesn't open. We had that the other day. Canvas broke down entirely. So if you have technical issues, you can always contact the tech team at UCLA. They're super fast in responding. If you don't get anywhere with them, you can send me an email and I will nudge them. I'm not a technical whiz on the Canvas side, so I cannot necessarily solve those problems, but I can at least make sure someone responds to you. I do want to know if, for example, videos are not loading, PDFs are not loading, files are not loading, because that's on my end. There might be, for example, in the last course, I had videos that just didn't show up. There was access denied notifications. When you get stuff like that, let me know. What that means is that the course wasn't transferred right into the new Canvas section. So sometimes the transfer misses files, or sometimes the transfer pulls on the wrong files. All that happened. So if you see a file that makes no sense to you, it doesn't match up with what you're reading, or if a video is not loading, or if you see a file that you're supposed to be seeing and it doesn't show up, just send me a quick email so I know and I will upload it. So the office hours that I'm holding, I'm also doing those on the Saturdays, like today, every second Saturday. But again, if you need to talk to me, just talk to me. Everything is always announced on your Canvas calendar. So when you go on your dashboard, you see a little, on the side, you see a little thing that says what's coming up, what's happening. And there you will see every time I announce something that comes in, you will see that. So, oops, sorry, I'm rushing forward. The grading, what we're grading in this course is going to be basically the quizzes that you're going to send in, assignments that you're going to send in, the final, and the midterm. I don't really give homework, honestly. This is something that I do when I teach the class live, which I also do. I teach it live. When we go live again, that would be applicable for them. Obviously, extra credits goes into your grade, but doesn't go into your grade is if you're showing up on these sessions here because they're not mandatory. So if you show up, it's because you enjoy it or want to hang out or want to learn something, but you're not going to be graded for participating in the Zoom sessions. Questions you have me, and then again, you hear from my accent, I'm German, and sometimes my husband calls it Jinglish. When I write something, it makes perfect sense in German grammar, but it may not make sense in English. So if you see something that is grammatically incorrect or spellings, feel free to point them out to me so I can fix them and don't look like an entire retard. But there might be some. So if you see spelling mistakes or grammar mistakes, forgive me. But let me know about them so I can change them, okay? So let's dive into this. So the one thing I want to tell you about the Hollywood industry as I find it, my chair is being stupid, is that I had to learn that really no one knows anything. I mean, I came from Germany, and in Germany, business has a little bit of structure, and when someone tells you, I'm going to do this movie and I'm going to finance this movie, they usually go do it. Here, in America, what I've experienced is when someone tells you, oh my God, I love this project and we're going to finance it, or we're going to do it, or it's greenlit, it means they may do it. It's a maybe. It's never really a yes. And I had to learn that the hard way. So a little bit of cultural interpretation is something I found entirely applicable in the Hollywood industry. So what that means for you is there might be things that seem like they're going and they may not be going. Just be patient with yourself and don't be afraid to ask questions. So when someone says to you, we're going to finance this movie, the answer would be, oh, that's great. Can you put some terms in an email so I understand the application of the financing and the terms and conditions that may or may not be part of this? So always try to make sure you put that stuff in writing when someone is excited about something. Let them send you an email, because the minute it's supposed to be in writing, things often change. So how do we know something is going to be successful? How do we know a film is a blockbuster as we work on the film? We don't know that. Even a successful production company, even a successful executive will not be able to say in the beginning, is it going to be something or not? All they do is they're basically doing their best guess in a sense of calculating cost versus potential revenues. And that's what we're doing here. With every project that we will be working on, we will be discussing, we're going to try to be commercial if we want to be commercial. If it's a small film festival project, we're going to look at that. How can that be commercial? Because in the end of the day, it's about matching your cost and your expenses to your potential revenues and profits. And it doesn't matter if it's a big blockbuster movie that goes on 2,000 screens in the US, or a TV show that may be picked up by Netflix, or if it's a small mini indie movie that goes to Sundance or a festival. The concept of commerciality applies for every project in the universe, not just a big blockbuster movie. So in the end of the day is, as you go into the process, you have no idea if you're going to be successful with it or not. All you can do is you can apply elements that will hopefully help you be successful with it, at least financially. And those elements we'll learn about. When we talk about a return of investment for an investor, that is not necessarily the return that you have as a producer. So can you tell the investor you're going to make an ROI of this and for sure? No, you cannot, because you don't know what the return of the investment for the investor is. However, what you can do is you can lay down a finance plan for him, lay down the risks that are involved in financing your project, and show them how you mitigate those risks. That is all you can do. And when you do that, you will come to a return of investment number that you're suggesting. You're never guaranteeing this. But as you start off your project, you don't know if you're going to be successful or not, and you don't know what it's going to be. And that's something you need to communicate always with your investor. But you can make a case for something, you can make a business plan for your project, and you can suggest what the return of investment could be if these steps that you're laying out will be applied. Now, how do we know what a producer will make? Now, there are two places where a producer makes money. The one area is the budget, the other area is the profit. Now, when you put your budget together, you're going to allow a little bit of a producer fee for yourself. And you need to be feasible because there's only so much money available for producers per industry standards. Industry standards says the producing pool, and that means all producers included in your project, not just you, should not exceed about 10 to 15% of the budget. Just keep that in mind. So when you put together your budget, try to be, I should say, feasible about your own money and how much money you will be making during the production if you are the producer. If you're not, if you're a writer, then we'll talk about what the writer's fees should be. We'll go through all the budgetary elements in their industry standard ranges in this class. So you learn about what the writer should be charging, what the director should be charging, what cast should be charging. We learn about those things so that we can, in the end of the day, put together a feasible budget with a chance of making a profit. But do you know what you will be making from distribution agreements and from profits? You don't know. At the time you're starting out, you have no idea. That's why you will be applying all these elements that you're learning about in order to get at least a grasp what could be possible. And you will learn also very early on, let me just grab some water here. You will learn very early on as you put these elements together for your project if this should be a project you should be making right now. Because it will tell you pretty quickly if it's something that should be done right now, is green lightable right now or not. So you learn about the elements that make your project valuable or tell you shouldn't be done right now. Now, when we talk about the market trends, nobody knows really what the market will do. I mean, right now we're in COVID. Look at this nonsense. So no one saw this coming. No one knows how distribution will react to this. No one knows how anyone will react to this. We kind of go day by day, trying to figure out how we're going to deal with this COVID thing, how we're going to continue production, how is anyone buying anything? Are distributors buying? Are they doing content? How is this going to work? We don't know. But what we do know is there are certain trends in the marketplace that have been there for hundreds of years. I'm talking about genres that sell better than other genres. I'm talking about certain level of actors that give your project a certain value, or a certain director that give your project a certain value. Now, the director and actor stuff can change slightly, but there are certain actors that need something for certain markets. And your focus will be, how am I going to put the project together in a way that a majority of the markets will deem this project profitable? And those elements we will talk about, those trends we will talk about, because those have been proven to be, you know, always kind of applicable, no matter if the business goes up or down or left or right. Those things have been repeatedly the case. So we can use what we've learned over the years to be applicable and apply it to a project and see if that can help us in making it more valuable. So what steps you can take to get a film or project, television project made is something that you will learn in this course and that you'll figure out as you apply it to your own project when you put that together. So when you put together your imaginary project or your own project, you will put all these things in to have a real application of what you've learned in the course. So in the first major studio boom, which was referred to as the Golden Age, we had a bunch of studios that were basically completely dominating the industry. There was no competitors. There was nothing going on. The studios were contracting talent, and they were contracting directors, and they were contracting writers as if they were employees. So if a writer would be writing for MGM, he couldn't be writing for Warner Brothers. If an actor would be acting for Warner Brothers, he wouldn't be acting for Paramount. So at that time, the studios really controlled everything. They controlled their talent in front and behind the camera through these exclusive contracts. Today, we find a similarity a little bit now, recently, where you see those deals that Apple is making with talent, that Netflix is making with talent, that Amazon is making with talent, where they do exclusive deals with showrunners and actors. It's a little bit, again, going in the direction where the studio was in the beginning of time, where they contracted talent to make sure it's exclusive to them, because that was their business model. The other business model they had is they had these huge studio lots where they would produce everything. So they produce everything in-house. So they had their own talent, their own people, and they produce it on their own lots. Once they're done producing, they had their own theater chains. So now the movie would go into the Warner Brothers theater chain or in the Paramount theater chain. So they controlled the distribution as well. So every piece of that value chain was controlled by the studio. So they controlled the entire universe of media as it existed. Production, talent, and distribution. And it was a round world for them. So they could control everything and they could move the industry the way they wanted to. And this business model was disrupted when television became about, which was around 1950s. And when the Supreme Court changed the law in saying, studios, you no longer own theater chains. Theater chains have to be owned by neutral people or neutral companies that will then acquire your projects. They will buy the right to release the project onto the theaters. So I'm summing this up as a concept so you understand what changed. So during that time, the studios had to give up their theater chains. They no longer owned them. They also had to become more involved in television content and not just feature film content. So from that moment on, more changing and moving started to happen in Hollywood. So what we're finding today is all of a sudden Netflix, Amazon, they decide to buy theaters. So the theater owners, obviously, the studios obviously say, hold on a second. If Netflix and Amazon can buy studios and release the movies that they're producing, why can we not own studios? What's wrong with that picture? So now there are huge discussions going on about maybe the studios again owning and buying theater chains or controlling them in some ownership form. So there are conversations happening right now that kind of resemble what happened early on when everything started. It's a very interesting time because, well, first of all, no one's really going to the theaters right now, so that's a whole conversation to be had. So how financially feasible that idea is, we'll find out. But the law and the changes in the industry are interesting to observe because with these online streamers that become so powerful and now also want to go into the theatrical world so they can be considered for an Academy Award and so forth, there is a lot of moving and pulling going on and heavyweights are being thrown around. So we may see, you know, people combining forces, studios combining forces in order to buy a theater chain or maybe a network station and or a studio and a streaming service will buy something. So I think there is a lot of buying and massaging of the law going on in the next few days. What law was that, Darren? No, that's not the Talent Agency Act. That was different. The Supreme Court issued that law around 1948. I'm going to have to look that up for you. I don't know the answer right this moment. So what that means for people developing stuff right now is this. You can go have an idea. You have a great script. You can pitch it to Netflix. You can pitch it to the studios. You can pitch it to a network station, depending on what it is. And then you have options. Will they buy the idea from you and saying, we'll buy the idea, we'll handle everything, or will they buy a distribution right when the idea is finished or when the project is distributed or ready to be distributed, or will they do a co-production with you? So there are various ways for you to develop a project towards them acquiring it from you. And I will go into that a little later in our presentation. So for now, I'm just going to stick to what studios we have today. So we had 5 big ones in the 50s. We now have 5 big ones again. Obviously, 20th Century Fox is now owned by Disney. This is kind of an overview of what's happening right now. Actually, this is from last year, what the marketplace is for each of these studios and how much market share they are taking in. So as we go into how do we as a producer deal with this, I want to point out these 3 examples. 2 of them are TV show, 1 is a movie. I mean, you all obviously know about the Star Wars franchise, and when George Lucas set out to do Star Wars, I think in his ideal world, he would have just given it to a studio and they would have just given him the money and he would have just made it. Now, when he had the idea for Star Wars, the studios weren't as excited about it as he thought they should be. So out of that situation, he was able to exclude certain rights because the studio said, oh, we don't want them, or we don't want to pay as much. And he said, well, if you don't want to pay as much, I'll keep certain rights. So I believe it was the merchandising rights, I'm not sure, that he kept. But he was able to exclude rights from this agreement with the studio that would pay for the production of Star Wars, which in the end of the day made him more powerful because he was able to exploit the rights that he excluded. So if we stick to that thought for a minute, let's talk about Baywatch. When Baywatch was done by the network station, it was a commissioned show, and I think it was NBC, don't kill me right now. It was a big network. They bought Baywatch based on the producers saying, Michael and Michelle Burke were actually friends of mine, those producers, they said, we have a great idea for a TV show, here you go. The TV network commissioned the show and did what they do, they produced it, they put it on the air, everyone's happy. After the first season or so, they decided, we don't really like it, we don't want to keep it on, we're going to take it off the air. Now the producers were not happy with that decision and they decided, hold on a second, we're going to not just forget this show, we're going to get the rights back and we're going to try to put it together ourselves. So what did they do? They went to Germany first because the Germans are crazy about David Hasselhoff, believe it or not. And they loved the show. So I think it was Germany, England, and 2 other European countries who bought the show and saying, we want to continue having Baywatch be produced and we will pay for the production costs. So it was a bunch of European countries that basically paid for the show to be continued in a way that the producer was able to control all rights because the US network didn't want it anymore. So now the producer went and did the show and was able to then license it back to the US network. So instead of owning the show, the network now licensed the show. So they decided, well, if it's already paid for and we only have to pay a license fee, maybe we'll put it back on. So the US network put the show back on as a license instead of a commission, meaning owning everything. It didn't own anything, it just now was paying for a license to air the show for a certain period of time on the network. And that happened to all the other distributors around the world too. They bought a license to air the show for a certain period of time on their network. And this is how Baywatch survived. Baywatch was basically structured by the producer in selling those licenses, pre-selling them to the distributors who would then take the show and put it on the air. What it did to Michael and Michelle Burke, the producers, is that they control the IP. So they ended up doing a movie with, I think it was Dwayne Johnson. They ended up doing all kinds of other things, merchandising things. They made a lot of money with the IP because they control the IP. And they continued the show by selling distribution rights. A similar thing happened to Dog Whisperer, which is a show that was created and produced by my husband, Jim Milio. And that's how I found out about it. Actually, I've never seen it, honestly, until I met my husband. Anyway, good show, you should watch it. So when Jim created the show, the company didn't have enough money to pay for it, and National Geographic at the time did not want to pay the entire budget. National Geographic said, we'll pay 50%, maybe we'll pay 75%, we'll keep the US rights and you're going to have to find the money somewhere else. So the producer they were forced to find the balance they needed to produce the show somewhere else, right? So they decided to defer fees. They decided to figure out, can we sell the show somewhere internationally? So they cobbled together that last 25% somehow to be able to deliver the first, I think it was 26 episodes that were ordered to National Geographic. What happened after that is after the first or second season, the show became a huge success, not just in the US, but around the world. Dog Whisperer is the #1 dog show on the planet. 10 seasons were produced after this. So you can imagine, I think it was 180 episodes altogether. Huge success. However, what happened is that National Geographic, to the end of time, only owned the US rights. So they would air it in the US. They didn't even own any online rights. So they couldn't even put it on like a Netflix or an Amazon. They didn't own those rights. All they owned was the television rights to air the show on National Geographic Television. All the other rights were owned by my husband and his team. So what that did to them is they were able to monetize and make money from the international distribution, from all the merchandising, from all the live shows, from all the different angles related to the pet industry and this show. And it was a huge success. It became a $90 million brand, which the producers were able to control a majority of. So that's the beauty of what looks like a problem in the beginning, where a network or a television or a distributor, a studio says to you, we don't want to buy everything. We just want to buy a portion, and we just want to buy this much, and we only want to pay this much. So there is an opportunity there for you to say, for you to be rejected on a bigger level in saying, okay, fine. If you don't want to buy everything, are you interested in just licensing the US for a certain amount? Are you interested in maybe just doing a co-production with me where you keep the US rights and I keep international rights, like the example for Dog Whisperer? Or can you, tell me where you and how you want to theatrically release the film, and maybe I keep merchandising rights if you don't want to pay as much. So there are negotiation options for you to have in case someone does not give you a blind check and a commission saying, here, we'll pay for the entire production, we pick up your project, and you get your producer fee, because that happens less and less. So you want to have options if someone says no, and you want to still be able to put it together in a way that it can be greenlit. Now, the idea is to think about what the differences are between the studio and the indie world. And the main difference is, if you give your project to a Warner Brothers, they pick it up, they say, we love your script, we're going to do it, and they pick it up, it's a pickup deal. They will then develop the project. They will control every aspect of the project. They give you a rights fee, and they do everything else. They develop it, they cast it, they package it, they produce it, they pay the cost for production, they distribute it, they pay everything. And what you're left with is no ownership, but that's okay, because you probably get a nice producer fee. And you may or may not get some profit participation. It's probably rare. But you will give your ownership away to the studio in that scenario. As an independent producer, if we're in the same scenario, and the studio would come to you and say, we like it, but we don't really want to pay for everything. The independent producer would then say, okay, are you interested in just licensing the US? In this licensing scenario, you keep control over the IP, which is the copyright. In the first scenario I mentioned, you lose the copyright. You have no ownership in any shape or form. The creative control in the first scenario goes to the studio, or to the network station that buys your idea, or to the streaming services that picks up your idea. Ownership, copyright goes to them if they pick it up and pay for everything. If they license it for a certain territory, let's say the US, for example, you can keep the creative control. You will, of course, talk to them about main things like cast, director, storylines. So the main things you obviously have to agree on, even in a license deal, but the creative control is more with you than it is with them. The development is a long-winded process anytime you have a pickup deal with a studio. So when a studio says to you, we love this idea, we want to develop it, get ready for 10 years. I'm joking, but I've seen it taken that long. You do have more control when you do a co-production or a license deal, because you can drive the development forward yourself a little better. When you do it independently entirely, like you will learn about in this class, you control the development fully, and it's up to you to develop it to a place where it becomes sellable. So you have full control. The budget, same issue, or not issue in this case. When you have a pickup deal with a studio or a network or a streaming service, they control the budget, they demand the budget. If you're doing this independently, you control the budget and you put it together and you can massage it. So that's up to you as well. Distribution, when a studio buys it or a network buys it or a streaming service buys your project as a pickup deal, meaning they buy the idea, they give you a rights fee, they control the entire aspect and all related expenses. And as you see from the Harry Potter example in module 1, when they control all these expenses, that also means that they control how much is being spent. And the issue there is you may or may not ever see a profit, because with the studio, every aspect of that value chain is related to the studio. The studio has a distribution division. That distribution division has to make money. So therefore, whatever is paid to them is decided by the studio production division, and that will then pay the distribution division. So the studio basically pays itself. Marketing, same issue. The campaigns that are done for the release of the film are done mainly by a team that's hired or is in-house with the studio. Sometimes they hire agencies to help them, but it is in control with the studio. So the marketing cost that the production entity pays to the marketing arm are again decided by the studio. The studio pays the studio. So it's in the studio's interest to have these profit centers be profitable. So that's why the costs may be higher than if you would release this movie on your own, or if you would, have it released in a way that someone gives you the releasing money, like a P&A investor. If you control the aspect of the release and the cost associated with it, you then also control the profits that will be available after the movie is released. So the distribution aspects can be controlled by you if you stay in control of the project. So that's important to know. Financing, when the studio finances the movie, as I just mentioned, they also dictate the costs and expenses related to it. So the profits will show whatever the studio will say it is. I'm not saying they are not honest, but I am saying that it will likely be much more expensive than if you would release the film as a rent-a-studio deal or as a self-releasing deal, and we'll talk about those options in a minute. So when you keep control over those expenses, then you can be financially transparent with your investors, because you can tell the investor, this is how much I pay for the budget, this is how much I'm going to be paying for the release campaign, this is how I'm going to release it, this is how much finance fees I have to pay to the various people. And you can break it down to the investor. The investors will appreciate that, because they kind of want to know where the money is going and when they will be making money. One, I should say, element that will help you with the transparency is a collection agency. Collection agents are third-party entities. There's only two in the entire entertainment world. They will basically be responsible for taking all the revenues in from all the distribution channels that your film or TV project is making money out of, and they will then make the payments to everyone who's supposed to get money. The bank, the investor, the distributor, everyone who's supposed to get paid gets paid from this one entity. And the studios don't use collection agents. They do all the accounting in-house. You, as the independent producer, must, I tell you, must use a collection agent for your own sanity and for your own security. And who they are and what they do, we'll get into in a minute. But just remember, they are like an escrow agent, like a neutral party that takes all the money that's being made from everywhere and will hold it in an account and will then pay who's supposed to get paid per the contracts you entered into and you negotiated. So they are on your side. And the investor will be very happy that you're doing it, because the investor knows you're a producer, you're not an accountant. And if you give that burden of accounting to a collection agent and the collection agent reports directly to the investor, they're going to be very happy. So whenever you talk to an investor about, here's how you're going to invest in my movie and here's how we mitigate the risk, collection agents are a huge risk mitigating factor for you and the investor. So just keep that in mind. Jonathan, I'm going to answer your questions in a minute, and Jessica, same to you. So let me get through the presentation and then I'll answer the questions that I'm seeing here in the chat. So how the index became stronger, or what made it possible for the independent film world and television world to expand like this, is the fact that the studios are reducing or have reduced a lot the output of movies that they're producing. So I don't know how old you guys are, but in the 80s, we would see, I don't know, 10 movies every Friday opening. And there was anything from small budget comedies to medium budget action movies to huge budget Marvel / huge tentpole kind of movies. So the studios were producing movies in different budget ranges and different genres. And we, as the movie-going audience, we got to enjoy different budgets and different things that the studios were making. At some point in the 80s, the studios decided we're going to focus on tentpole movies only. We're going to focus on proven IPs, Marvel, etc., etc. So Harry Potter. So what they did more of, they're focusing on the Hunger Games. They're focusing on huge tentpole, $100 million upwards movies, most of which are related to an IP that exists and has an existing audience. So the small comedies, the small thrillers, the small action movies were no longer be produced by the studios at that time. Now the independents were like, okay, hold on. We know there is an audience for this, and why are we not doing it? So the independent producers stepped up and made studio level movies, comedies, thrillers, action, at independent budget levels, because they couldn't afford to do it at the same level the studio did. But the budgets were still, I would say, in the like $5 to $30 million range. So it's still significant, so that there was a quality there. So they started producing these movies and basically had the studios either license them to be theatrically released in the US, or they figured out a different way to release them themselves through P&A investors. We'll get to that. But the point I'm making is the change of the studios, I would say, taste buds, for lack of a better word, opened up a boom for the independents. And in the 80s and 90s, the independents were super strong and they were everywhere and dominated the marketplace. And it was a fantastic time because the international distributors were happy to be buying these high quality theatrical level movies for lesser distribution fees. They didn't have to pay the high distribution fees to the studios. They didn't have to pay these expensive output deals with the studios. So the international distribution world also started booming. So that was the best time. They're paying high license fees and the independents were happy. Now, as things progressed, the online players came in. We call them disruptors, Netflix, Amazon, etc., etc. They came in and they said, you know what, we're going to change this around a little bit. So now everyone's confused because Netflix and Amazon and other platforms like this, they would first buy, and then later they started producing these projects, and they would buy all rights. So now there was, the content was out there, but it was snatched away by these online services. So the international distributors started scrambling. They saw the audience moving from the theaters and the television to the online platforms. So now everyone's losing eyeballs and people are freaking out. The reason why is that advertisers, which is a revenue source from network stations, very much, these are the main distributors who buying these licenses, they're paying for the bills. So if an advertising company pays advertising on a network, they expect to see eyeballs, they expect to see high ratings. And if the ratings drop because everyone is moving online, the advertisers pay less. So now the buyers, distributors, had less money available to buy product. But meanwhile, they needed product desperately because it's being snatched up by the online players. So a conundrum started to happen where the distributors didn't really have the money anymore, like in the 80s and 90s, to pay these amazing license fees because they didn't have the revenues coming in from the advertisers. They still need product, so now what's gonna happen? So everything kind of stopped. The whole entire universe of the industry had to try to figure out, what do we do now? And we're still right now in a place, and on top of it, COVID happened. We are still right now in a place, and when I say we, I mean the independent producing world, to try to figure out, how do we define our position in the marketplace? How do we make these projects happen for lower level distribution fees, which are dictating our profits? How do we get anything made? And who buys it now? So in this kind of change that is happening right now, based on the entry of the online players, and also based on COVID, we have to figure out what our position is in the independent world is. The way to break through is by working on projects that we know can break through in the marketplace, because quality still sells. So the focus right now should be on content that is selling. Genres like thrillers and action, for some reason, they always sell around the world. Horror is a genre that can be produced with a low budget because the cast components are not driving the horror genre essentially like they would drive the thriller and action genre. There you still need strong cast. In the horror genre you don't, but you do need a strong director who is proven in the horror genre in order to make that valuable. When we talk about comedies, we need to be careful because comedy does not sell everywhere. Comedy is one thing where I would say definitely actor driven, still not easy to be made right now. Now, television series, there we are talking about buyers on the streaming platforms, especially for the streaming platforms representations in the different countries. So for example, let's say you work on a German show, like I'm putting together a German television show right now. There is a conversation to be had. Am I pitching the English version because it's a German subject matter? It's a German show shot in Germany. Am I pitching this as a German television show to Netflix Germany because they're looking for stuff right now? Or am I pitching this to Netflix in the US as an English show with a strong US showrunner? So these are the conversations I'm having right now and thinking about how am I going to get this done. The first thing I have to do is I have to put a Bible together that people are even interested in. Who cares if it's a show about something no one cares about? So I had to come up with an idea that I could find interest for. So I structured something and it worked out. The Bible was okay. I even wrote the pilot script myself because I couldn't find a writer who did it in a way that it worked. But of course, you know, you cooperate. So you work a long time to put something together in the television world, I say, that is a TV Bible that resembles what people are looking for. So in this case, it's driven by thriller elements. It's driven by other timely elements like the whole gender discussion that we're having. So my focus on this, just to give an example, is what is relevant today and what is a genre that sells. So I'm focusing on the thriller drama genre and I'm dealing with subject matters that are relevant today. So that's how I decided for myself to do this. I'm still having a conversation in my head and with people about, am I doing this in German or am I doing this in English? So what it comes down for you is, think about who do you want to pitch this to? Who's your buyer for this TV show? When you work on a television series, you early on think about the potential buyer, because in that area, in the television world, it is important to think about the buyer, meaning the network or the streaming service first before you start putting it together. So always keep in mind, who are you doing this for? Someone is not muted here. I'm going to who is not muted? Clay, I'm going to mute you. Okay. No, you are muted. Okay, what is going on here? All right, maybe you guys are muted now. All right, so please mute so we can continue the recording. So the opportunity here is for you to focus on projects that you know can make sense and that work for the audience that you're going to, the buyer that you're going for. Are you going to go theatrical or is it not making sense to go theatrical? Let's talk about P&A. P&A is called print and advertising money. So the print and advertising money, obviously there is no print anymore because we're all digital now, but it's still called P&A. Print and advertising money is the money that is used to put together a release campaign to create awareness about a television, a feature film that's supposed to be released in the US. Let's start with the US first. So you can make a decision, is it going to be a wide release? A wide release is anything over 1,000, 1,500 screens. Is it going to be a small release, 100 screens, 50 screens, just major cities? Based on that decision, you figure out how much print and advertising money you need if you want to go theatrical, right? And if you have knocked on all the studio doors and everyone said no. So no one's going to take your movie. No one wants to just take the theatrical risk on because it is a risk. So now you're talking to these P&A investors. There is an investor group, or there are various investor groups in the world that do nothing else but P&A investing. So what that means is they will give you the money to take your movie out and pay for the theatrical campaign. Now, that money has to be paid back as well. So when you do a P&A investment, you figure out the screen number and then you get to an amount. So let's say you want to go on 500 screens and your P&A is $5 million, something like that. And the P&A investor says, and on that money, we also want to make 20%. So now it's 5 million plus 20%, so 6 million. So that money has to be recouped from the box office revenues. So you now have to add the P&A money on top of your budget in order to be able to be feasible. Now, the revenue you're getting to recoup all this is your box office. So you need to, you're now taking box office risk, and it better be a really good box office outcome because P&A is expensive. In some cases, it makes more sense to take a theatrical movie and not put it in the theaters because the P&A costs are too high, and just really sell it to a streaming service who, for example, would do a fantastic launch to premiere the movie. And in some cases, it makes sense to just release it in a few little cities. Whatever you decide, you need to run the numbers to make sure there is enough money projected to come back to you so you can pay for P&A and the budget, because you're now adding that to your budget as a cost component. When you do a P&A investor, you have, or investment, you have various ways of releasing the movie. You can go to Warner Brothers, I'm just giving an example, could be Paramount, could be anyone, and say, listen, I'm going to pay for the P&A myself. I'm going to rent you to release my movie for me in the US. It's a rent-a-studio deal where you basically rent the studio and say to them, I'm going to give you the P&A money. I'm going to pay for everything because my investor will pay for everything for you to release it. And then you take it out and you will charge me a distribution fee. The distribution fee the studio charges will probably be lower than what you would usually pay, but you control the aspects. They will take the movie and they will release it to you, depending on if they like the movie or not, and if they like the P&A money, they get it. The other option is you can self-release it through self-releasing companies. There are theatrical companies in the US that take on a movie and basically structure the release campaign, and they book the theaters, and they talk to exhibitors who own these theater chains for you. So they handle the entire release campaign like the studio would have done. But then, of course, it's a self-released movie. There's nothing bad about it, but the process is the same. So you do have options if you feel you have a strong movie to release it, even though you're being rejected by a studio. That's just something to know. And sometimes it makes financial sense to do it, and sometimes it doesn't. So it really comes down to what you want to do. Now, if you do a negative pickup with the studio, so let's say you have a movie and it's finished and you're showing it on Sundance, and the studio says, Warner Brothers says, we love this movie, we're going to buy it and we're going to release it. They buy the negative, so to speak. So they buy the movie and they will handle the releasing of it in the US, and they will also pay for everything. Now, when we talk about distribution versus sales, you have to know about sales agents. Sales agents are, when you go to the American film market, those are the people you see in all those rooms. So American film market, from the 4th floor on, there is a bunch of sales agents that sell everything. There's studios too, there's networks too, of course, because everyone's selling everything through the worldwide market. So the American film market is an example for a place where content goes and gets sold around the world, where distributors from the international marketplaces come and buy from these buyers that are sitting in these, from these sellers that are sitting in these rooms. So these sales agents are not necessarily distributors. The distributor is defined as someone who takes the movie or the show and actually distribute it on their platform. So a distributor could be a network station, a distributor is an online platform, or a distributor is a studio. So they take the content and they're actually doing the distributing. The sales agent is the person who sells it to them to be able to distribute. So the sales agent is basically an agent between you and the distributor. And that's an important distinction because the sales agent is someone who works for you for a commission. So when they sell your movie for $1 million to a German distributor named Constantin Film, they make 20% sales fee, $200,000, you get $800,000. That's how that relationship works. And it's important for you to distinguish that from a distributor because a distributor buys rights. They have the right to take the movie, they pay a price, and then they can do with the movie whatever they feel like for the time that they agree to distribute it for. So it's a very different relationship, and it's important to know the distinction. The sales agent will give you sales estimates. So they will look at the movie and say, we read the script, we see this is the cast, we see this is the director you're choosing or thinking of choosing, and we understand this is the budget you want to make it for. With these elements, we will put together a sales sheet. The sales sheet includes our ask price, which is the price we will ask the distributor to pay, and it's a higher price, and the take price, which is the price that is the minimum acceptable price as a contractual relationship between you and the agent. That's a lower price. Sometimes they also give you a medium. But the take and the ask are the two things you only need to concern yourself with, because the take price is what every investor goes by, what every bank goes by, what everyone who you contractually enter into an agreement with on your movie will go by. So that take price that the sales agent put together reflects the value of the entire project. It will show you how much money you will be making by distributing your project in the international marketplace outside of the US. So sales estimates are only done for international distribution revenues. They do not include the US revenues. And the reason why they don't include the US, and the reason why no one even considers looking at the US as a distribution revenue at the time of investing or buying or doing anything, is because the US market is too volatile. No one can estimate what happens here. No one can know if this being sold to a US distributor or not. So your basis for any finance plan you do, for any conversation you have with anyone, is going to be your sales estimates. And a portion of those sales estimates are pre-sales. Now, what are pre-sales? Pre-sales are actual rights, distribution rights you sell before you make your movie or TV show. They're called pre-sales because they happen before you make the show happen, before you make anything happen. It's a distributor who read the script, who sees your cast, who sees the director, who understands the concept and says, I believe in this project. I know it will be a good movie, and I'm willing to pre-buy the German rights for $1 million. And these pre-sales will signal to you that you have something that the international market actually wants. They will tell you there are distributors in the world who really like this idea, who really are excited by this, and who are willing to pre-buy the right to distribute your movie in their territory, in their country. So pre-sales are essential for you to assess if your project is globally viable. So they are important for you to make. Now let's go back to the 80s and the 90s. We pre-sold our movies literally 100%, or maybe even 120%. So we were making money before we were even making the movie at the time. These times have changed. It is much harder today to do pre-sales, much harder. So today, the bracket for you to understand the value or the reality of anyone wanting your movie outside of your brain is established by low pre-sales in the 30% range. Now, you have to think about, if you pre-sell about 30% of your budget to maybe Germany, Italy, and Spain, maybe those three pre-buy them, you know, okay, there are 3 countries that are in Europe and they're strong buyers and they want it. So that gives me an indication that I'm working on a project that's worthwhile making, and my investor is going to be happy about that too. But if you're not able to pre-sell at least 3 meaningful territories, around a third of your budget, you have to assume that your project is potentially not globally viable. Now, you can take the risk and make the movie anyway, obviously, But you need to know that risk is very high because the indication was given to you that there is no global demand at this time for this project with this package. What you can do if you don't establish pre-sales is you can change your talent package. Maybe it's the cast that is not pulling the weight. Maybe it's the director that's not pulling the weight. So you talk to your sales agent about elements that can optimize the pre-saleability of your project, and maybe you have to change a few things. Or maybe there are some things in the script that you want to overthink. So get feedback from the marketplace and maybe adjust your project to then establish around 30% of pre-sales. It is important for you to do that so that you know there is some demand in the marketplace for your project. And even if it's small sales and they relate to a small project, it's fine. Now, there is an exclusion to that rule that is the case when you have a project that is very domestically driven. Domestically meaning the US market really likes it, and it's not something the international market goes for as much. In that case, you would have a US deal in place, or you at least have an LOI from a US buyer that indicates this is the case. This is a project that is stronger in the US than it is internationally, and therefore will not drive or will not be proven as a value by international pre-sales because it is stronger in the US and that value is being proven. So in that situation, you want to do some kind of a US deal to back yourself up to make sure that's the case. Let me look at some of these questions here real quick. I'll give you the name of the collection agents. It's Vintage and Freeway, and it's all in the modules. You'll get their contact information even. Okay. We will talk about the capacity of the streamer recoupment. Yes. Is it a must to find the sales agent? No, if you want to sell the movie yourself, you can do that. You don't have to, but I would suggest you do because you make more money that way. And then do pre-sales go through sales agent or sales agent? Yes. The sales agents are the entity that would do these pre-sales for you. I mean, I have done pre-sales with, let's say, a German buyer because I'm from Germany. I know the world there, and I was able to do a deal with, for example, a Constantine because I had an existing relationship. If you have existing relationships, because maybe you're from France or maybe you're from England and you have an industry connection, you can do these pre-sales yourself. If you can't, it's okay. The sales agent will do them for you. We'll get to some of the other stuff in a minute. I want to show you a sales sheet. So this is what the Hollywood Reporter announced or looked at or published a while back. It's just kind of an overview that tells you how do these sales estimate sheets even look like. So the Hollywood Reporter said, if your budget of your movie is in the rate between 750 and 1 million, here is the amounts you could get from France, Italy, Portugal, Scandinavia. These are the ranges you could establish. If your budget is 1 million to 3 million, this is the ranges of the license fees you could establish. These are the ranges of the license fees you could be getting. If your budget is between 3 and 6 million, this is what the international distributors would be paying for. If your budget is between 6 and 12 million, this is the likelihood of what the international distributors would be paying for. So they basically make a relationship between the budget and the license fee that an international distributor would be paying to you. And they're giving you a range here. They're giving you a range for Europe, Asia, Latin America, Eastern Europe, and others. Now, this is obviously a sheet that is giving you a wide range. And it talks about movies that have a genre that is globally viable, like thrillers and action. So when you look at this sheet, obviously it really comes down to your own project. It may change the numbers, your genre, which also change those numbers, and your global viability, which change those numbers. But this sheet, which is also on the modules, by the way, and I'm going to send this PowerPoint to everyone, gives you a basic idea of what these distributors could be paying you for the right of distributing the movie in their territory. This Hollywood Reporter going rate, Hollywood Reporter, capital R, thank you very much. It's just something that you could look at as a basic reference. It changes obviously depending on the project, and it changes depending on what's going on in the marketplace. But it gives you kind of a range just as an orientation. We talked about the importance of foreign sales estimates. The foreign sales estimates, and when we talk about sales estimates that your sales agent put together for you, that show you the value of the revenues you could be achieving through selling international rights, we talk about estimates. We're not just talking about sales. This is just basically a projection. But the projection is important because it is the basic element for your finance plan. So when you do a movie that's $1 million as a budget, let's just say, your international sales estimates should show a value at the take level, which is the lowest level, of between $700,000 and $750,000. So about 70 to 75% of your revenues will come or should come from the international marketplace, ideally. Now, if the project is driven by a domestic component, that number can go down. If you have a project that can be shot in a tax incentive region that gives you a tax incentive that is 40%, you can play with this number as well. But in the normal world, where you have to figure out what is my project worth in general, it would be good if you can get the project's value through the script, through the cast, and through the director at a place where the international estimates provided by the sales agent are somewhere in the 70 to 75% range on the low. That will signal to you that you have a commercially viable project, and it will open all kinds of doors with investors and anyone else you'll be working with. That is the goal. Can you make that happen? Many times, yes. And sometimes you have a conversation with a sales agent where they say, you know, if you change this, this, or this, I can make it happen. So it is important for you to foster relationships with sales agents early on to get the feedback you need in order to put your project together independently, and do it in a way that it has a chance of profits. We talked about what a pre-sale is. A pre-sale is a country that is listed on that pre-sale sheet. Let's say on the pre-sale sheet it says Germany, $1 million at the take level as a distribution revenue that you could be getting. Now in our case, if we stick to the $1 million budget, Germany would probably pay $100,000, which is about 10%, which is usually what they pay. So let's say on your sales estimate sheet for the $1 million project, Germany is listed with $100,000. Now Konstantin, the German buyer, says, I'm going to buy this movie and hoping it will be great, and I'm going to pre-buy it for that $100,000. You now make a pre-sale for $100,000. That's what a pre-sale is. You're taking these territories that are listed on your sales estimates and you start selling them as you're putting your movie together. So you're selling Germany for $100,000 for the $1 million movie. You probably can sell Italy for around $30,000, and maybe you sell, you know, Spain for like $50,000. So you start doing these pre-sales with your sales agent. In this case, sales agent would do it, but when I say you see those pre-sales coming in while you're putting the movie together, and you will be using those pre-sales later for something very important that we'll talk about. I'm here, and we talked about importance of, you know, global viability, why pre-sales are important, but people say to me, why am I doing these pre-sales? People pay less, and then I should be, I get more money later when the movie is finished. That's a misconception. It's actually a very big misconception, and I have seen this to be a misconception because I thought the same way, that this would actually be the case. So I was like, no, I'm not pre-selling. I'm going to wait until the movie is done, and then I'm going to sell. What happens is these buyers, these distributors in these countries know you now have to sell the movie. The movie is made, and you have to sell it now. So they know one of the 5 people in their country has to buy it. And these 5 distributors in Germany, they all talk to each other. You saw that movie Jeanette is making? She made it. What are you offering? Well, I'm thinking of offering this. What are you offering? I'm thinking of offering this. So they all talk to each other. And now you actually get less money because they know you have to sell it. They know. So now Germany says, yeah, you know, I would have pre-bought it for $100,000, but now that it's made, I could use it, I could not use it, I'll pay you $50,000. So all of a sudden, the pressure of having to sell is something that the distributors use to their advantage. And I'm not saying they're doing this all the time, because it could be that your movie is fantastic and there is a bidding war going on. All this could happen. But in the real world, more often than not, will the distributors try to pay less because they know you're having now pressure to sell to them. And there are cases, of course, again, where something is very much in demand and then they pay more, but it's not something you can rely on. So pre-selling is often the more secure way and the more feasible way for you to get your project made. When you pre-sell something to Germany, that German buyer, like in our case, Konstantin, who bought the German rights for $100,000 for the $1 million movie, that German buyer now owns the rights for Germany. And Konstantin can say, oh, I'm going to actually release this movie in the theaters. Yeah, okay. They pay for the release campaign in Germany. They pay for all the related costs. That's great. And they will also be the one who's taking the box office risk because it's not you. You already got $100,000 from Germany. And if the movie tanks in Germany, you already got your money. You don't care. So you take no foreign box office risk by doing these sales. So a distribution sale means that the box office risk in that territory is taken over by the international distributor, not you. But here's what happens. So Konstantin releases the movie in the theater, and then it says, movie sucked. We're not making our money back. Okay, great. They paid you $100,000 and the movie tanked. You have your $100,000. You don't care. Now, second scenario, Konstantin puts the movie in the theaters and it makes a gazillion in box office. Hallelujah. Konstantin's very happy. You got $100,000. You could potentially be miffed because you could have made more money. But here's the little trick. In your deal with Konstantin, you also put a passage in that says, if you make a lot of money in the box office, you have the right to deduct all the money that you paid for the release campaign. So Konstantin can deduct that. You can also the money that you paid to me, the producer, so Konstantin can deduct the $100,000, and you can deduct your distribution fee. So Konstantin will deduct a distribution fee of, I don't know, 30%. The balance of what is left is now split 50-50 with you. And you as the producer get what is called overages. So while you don't take any box office risk, you do have the option of receiving overages if the movie does well in the territory. So that's something for you to know. When sales estimates changed, first of all, the way they are established is by the sales agents reading the script or reading the concept of the Bible, looking at the talent attachments like cast, director, looking at the budgets, looking at the genre, looking at the target audience. Is this supposed to be a global audience? Is it supposed to be a smaller audience? Is it a festival movie? Is it a global movie? So they look at all these elements, and based on that, they establish a value, and that value is established in the sales estimates they give to you. That's how the sales estimates are established. Now, here's what can happen. You do a movie with David Hasselhoff, to stick with our example. It's a $1 million movie. David Hasselhoff is hot right now. Everyone wants a David Hasselhoff movie. Now, as we're doing this movie, as we're putting it together, David Hasselhoff all of a sudden has an issue. You know, something comes up in the press and he's now hated by everyone. No one wants a David Hasselhoff movie now. Now, that could, of course, be a problem for you. So now, all of a sudden, your movie is worth much less because the elements, the value of the element has changed. Sometimes this happens. It doesn't often happen, but it sometimes happens. And it happens specifically in a case where it takes a long time to put the movie together. If it takes you 5 years to put your movie together, the value of the elements might have changed in those 5 years. You know, who is hot in a territory today might not be hot tomorrow when we talk about an actor. So those are the risks you take when you take a long time to put your project together. You just need to be aware of those risks. The way to deal with that is that in your contracts with the talent, you give yourself outs that are relating to change of value. So for example, if you do a deal with the director who is a hot director today and he loses value tomorrow, in the contract with him, you will state that you have the right to replace him if the financial components are affected. So you have possibilities to deal with these things and change these elements, but you have to contractually put them in the agreement with your talent. So just remember that. And you will learn about it more when we go through the module with all the agreements. The pitfalls of distribution is that you need to be aware that when you do a deal with the sales agent, that this deal is a sales agreement and not a distribution agreement. A distribution agreement means the sales agent now controls all the rights and can do more with the project that you cannot control. A sales agreement means that he is working on your behalf and selling the movie on your behalf. Your deal with the sales agent should be a sales agency agreement. Now, if the sales agent says, I'm going to pay you a distribution advance, I'm going to give you 30% of the budget or 25% of the budget up front, I want to handle the distribution because I now made an investment and I gave you money up front, that's the time when you can have a conversation about a distribution agreement versus a sales agreement. If there is no money given to you up front, the sales agent is a sales agent and stays a sales agent and will never be a distributor, and you just need to know this, and you should not be doing anything else. How do you find the right sales agent? You go to the American film market. Remember those 4 floors? Right now it's all online and it starts in November, so please sign up. And you look at the various sales agencies and you look at what content they are selling right now. Are they selling movies in a similar budget than your movie is going to be? Are they selling movies in a similar genre that your genre is going to be? Are they selling similar movies than what you are trying to put together? That's the agent you want to contact. You send them a script, you send them a nice little package, a little pitch deck. You'll learn about how to put that together in this course, and you start the conversation with them. They're always looking for content and they're always looking for good content. So you never have to be shy in approaching them. And if you work on something, let me know. I might point some sales agents out for you if I know, who works and who doesn't. I don't know all of them, but I know a lot of them. I've worked with the majority of them. But the point here is you want to work with an agent that has a similar lineup to the project that you're making, because they will be the strongest in selling this similar project for you, and they will also be the most interested in acquiring it from you or doing a sales agency agreement with you. So when you go online right now, American Film Market, and you sign up as an attendee, I believe you get the entire list of all the sales agents, and I also think that you will see all the movies that they're selling. So this is a great research tool just for you to know. I have no idea what it costs. I think it's a few $100 to attend. It's not that expensive. What the sales agent looks for is something that is easy for them to sell. I mean, that's obvious. But what is easy for them to sell? A genre that travels, thriller, action, a script that is really good and stands out, obviously, and a package they can sell in connection with that story. So they're looking for cast-driven projects that are made in a budget range that is feasible. So you always want to try to, when you do something that's commercial, try to spend some money just in one line item for a cast member that's at least semi-recognizable to give you some value. So that's the place to spend some money if you're doing something commercial, if you're intending to doing not an art house movie. Frankly, also with an art house movie, I would always try to get an actor that is strong. And in fact, leading actors love these kind of movies because they could potentially be Academy Award contenders. Most importantly is you need to have a strong script that attracts at least one actor that has some recognition. Just one. You only need one. One in a role that has a screen, that is a leading role, that has some screen presence. That's all you need to do. Everything else kind of falls into place after that. We talked about the rights that a sales agent should be given. What the rights are is simply the right to sell your movie on your behalf, not distribute unless they pay in advance. Sales agent should ideally be connected to a performance clause. What's a performance clause? Imagine the scenario, we're doing a $1 million movie, we got estimates for $700,000 or $750,000 from the agent. The agent takes the deal, takes the movie on, it says for 7 years, he is the sales agent for this movie. Theoretically, he could sit on the movie and sell nothing. You could say, yeah, I issued those estimates and I was thinking I'm going to make $750,000, but now I'm going to be traveling to Italy for 3 months. I don't have time to sell the movie. I'm not selling right now. Could happen, right? Doesn't happen, but could happen. So what your intent would be, you say to the sales agent, okay, you gave me sales estimates for $750,000 for international distribution revenues on my $1 million movie. Thank you. I would like the sales estimates to be an exhibit to my sales agency agreement, Exhibit A, and I would like you, sales agent, to tell me how long it will take you, in your estimation, to hit some milestones. When do you think you can make the first $200,000 revenues? When do you think you can make the next 300,000? When do you think you can hit the $750,000 mark? Let the sales agent give you the timing. Don't dictate it to them. Let them give it to you. And whatever it is, it's usually something within, I don't know, 1 to 3 years for the first distribution round. It's usually where it should be. Let them give you the milestones. And then you add, if the milestones are not hit, I have the right to terminate this agreement. You as a producer would have the right to terminate the sales agency agreement if the performance milestones are not hit. This is something you need to think about simply because you do have a due diligence, or you do have a fiduciary duty to your investor. The investor expects a return of investment that is related to some kind of time frame. Now, obviously, you're not guaranteeing anything because you can't, but you are going to tell your investor it's going to take about 3 years or so for monies to be repaid. And that's kind of normal. But you don't want to say to the investor, it's going to take about 3 years and then it takes 10. So, and then you look back and then you kill the relationship with an investor who could invest potentially more of your movies. So you want to put the sales agent under a performance clause that dictates when what money will come in. And if it doesn't, you have the right to terminate the contract. Any sales agent who does not want to work with a collection agent is a sales agent you will not ever work with. Please write this down in big red letters. Do not hire a sales agent that is not in agreement to put a collection agent in charge of revenues, because here's what's going to happen. If you don't have a collection agent, the sales agent will sell the $100,000 deal with Constantine, remember, and will tell the Constantine guys, here's where you sent the money. You sent the money to me, the sales agent, and then I will pay Jeanette, the producer. Bad idea. What you will say is, hello, sales agent, you're going to sell this rights, to Germany, and Constantine is going to buy them. That's great. And the account number you're going to put in is the account number of the collection agent. So now Constantine pays all the money to the collection agent and not to the sales agent. There's 2 reasons why that's important. 1, sales agents are not accountants. How do you know how much money they are making? How do you know how much money they're deducting? What are they deducting it for? When do they give you the money? Are they using your money for something else? You have no control. Will they go bankrupt? Oh my God, if they go bankrupt, your money is gone. So not a good idea. If the money goes to the collection agent then will pay the sales agency fee of 20%. Let's say that's what you agreed. They will pay the distribution expenses. Maybe the sales agent says, I need 5% in distribution expenses on top. The collection agent will pay that. And the collection agent will pay anyone that has any relationship to the movie and needs to get paid. The actors, maybe they have profit participation. The writer, maybe they have profit participations. You, obviously you want your profits. The bank, maybe you have a bank loan. The investors, you have an equity investor. The investor premium, the equity obviously wants to make a premium on their money. They will pay all of this and they will give a report to everyone at the same time. So it is important for you to have a collection agent. It's either Vintage or Freeway, and I will send you the information in connection to anything you'll ever touch that you'll ever produce. And you will do this and you'll pay 1% to this collection agent, just so you know how much this costs. It's very little. They only charge a 1% fee of whatever money you'll be making. It's a fee that's worth taking all these headaches away from you, I can tell you that. Now, the sales agent agreement will include a collection agency provision because you're now smarter than everyone. And you're going to tell the sales agent, we're going to have the collection agent collect on all the distribution revenues, right? And they say yes, and you're in heaven. So all is well. Let's look at a basic finance plan. Guys, I'm going to answer all your questions in a minute. I just want to get through this presentation. What should a basic finance plan look like? So this is a finance plan where you start from scratch. No studio is buying your project, no, meaning buying all rights, and no streaming service and no network station is buying all the rights and commissioning it. So this is a situation that will likely happen to most of us as we're putting our projects together. What should a finance plan look like? How are we putting this thing together? So let's say we have a movie again. Let's stick with our $1 million example. we're going to have this $1 million movie. We got a sales agent to give us sales estimates of, let's say, $750,000, right? So I'm going to write this down so I don't forget. 1,750,000 is our international estimated revenue to be making with this movie. Now, we did get our pre-sales of 30%. So in our finance plan, the first component we get to secure is we know our sales estimates are 75% of our budget, $750,000, and we know we're going to do 30% pre-sales, so that's $300,000. So of the $750,000 estimate for international distribution revenues, we now sell 300,000, meaning 30%. So 750,000 were estimated, 300,000 were pre-sold. We're left with $450,000 that we can still be making as we're selling the movie later, right? So we are smart and we're going to decide to shoot the movie in a tax incentivized or subsidizing region because we do want to get some free monies. We want to get in our finance plan always an option of a finance component that we do not have to pay back. Tax incentives are a great example for shooting in a region where you get incentivized. So I don't know if you guys know, but production incentives are given in a lot of states in the US, in a lot of countries outside the US, and they really are simply nothing else than giving you money back on money you spent there. And the percentage how much money they give you has to do with the local rules and regulations of what expenses they deem are legitimate under their regulations. So whatever the eligible expenses are in the region where you're shooting, they will give you a percentage of. Now, in the real world, it means you get a percentage paid back to you after you make the movie. How does that help you with your finance plan? It doesn't help you at this very moment when you're putting together your movie. What you want is, you want to go, let's say you're shooting this $1 million movie in Louisiana or something, New Mexico, and you get 20% tax credits as an estimate. So you talk to someone there, they did an estimate on the budget and they see how much money you're spending there and they give you an estimate that says under the budget that you're spending here and under the expenses that are eligible here, it looks like 20% could be given to you as a tax credit, as a subsidy. You take that estimate, that piece of paper, to a lender. That lender can be a bank or a tax incentive lender. And they will take that estimate and they'll give you a loan for it. And that's what you want. And here's why you want that. A, you can get it the minute you're putting your movie together right now, and you don't have to wait a year to do it later in your tax return or figure out how to get it. You get it now. The second thing is, which is what happened to me, what if New Mexico changes their law while you're putting your movie together or while you're shooting there, and all of a sudden 20% become 10%? That's a problem, which will not work because your entire movie is now busted. It's not going to happen. So if changing legislation occurs, which it does often because these various states change their rules and laws, and sometimes they run out of money, this risk is taken over by whoever, by the tax credit lender. So if you go and take this estimate to a tax credit lender like 120DB, there are certain lenders that I will share with you that take these estimates and give you the money up front. These lenders will take on the risk of any changes that might occur afterwards because they get paid back by the region. You don't pay the lender back. The lender gets paid back by the state of New Mexico in our example. So when you got your money, you're happy, you're going to do your movie. Now the lender is going to, once you're done with your movie, go to the state of New Mexico and figure out to get paid back by them. That's what the lender does. Now, obviously, you pay the lender a healthy fee for doing the work. So the tax credit lender will charge you anywhere from 5 to sometimes 20% of the money that is estimated as the tax incentive. So let's say if you, in our example, you get a $200,000, 20% tax incentive on your $1 million movie, and let's say the guy charges you 10% that is, giving you the loan for this incentive, the tax incentive lender would get 10% of $200,000, $20,000, I guess, yes. And that's what they get paid for, to do the work and take the risk. So you do pay something, and it's usually more than what you would do otherwise, because if you do it yourself, you don't have to pay anything. But it's worth the payment because A, you have the money up front, and B, you don't have to deal with any legislations that could change. And there is another reason why you want to put this tax incentive in your finance plan early on as a loan. It reduces your risk, it reduces your need for equity, and therefore reduces the risk for the equity investor. Because the equity investor is going to pay whatever is left in your finance plan. So you get your pre-sales of 30%, you get a loan for those pre-sale contracts from a bank. Just so you know, when you take these pre-sale contracts, you got the deal from Germany, from Konstantin, $400,000. That's a distribution deal. You have that in your hand. You might have sold Italy and you might have sold England. So now you have $300,000 worth of distribution deals in your hand. You take those deals to the bank and they will give you a loan based on those deals. That's the bank loan. So you get your money from the bank up front. So when later Germany pays when they get the movie, because Germany doesn't pay until they get the movie. They just give you a piece of paper. They just say, we will be paying this when we get the movie. So it doesn't really help you. But in the moment when you have that contract, you take the contract to the bank, so they give you money for it. So the German pre-sale becomes cash to you because that deal means money right this minute. And it doesn't really matter to you that Germany pays when they get the movie, because at that time, you're going to use the money that Germany pays on delivery when they get the movie, and you pay the bank loan back with it. So that's how that works. So the bank gives you a loan, you use it to finance your movie, you pay them back when Konstantin pays on that agreement. That's a basic structure for a bank loan. Now the tax credit is also a loan, but that loan you don't have to pay back because it's paid back by the tax credit region. So that's free money to you. So now with our 30% bank loan for our pre-sale contracts and our 20% tax incentive, we're already halfway there. We now covered 50% of our budget already. Now we're still missing 50%. So here's something else banks will do. Banks will look at your sales estimates. Remember, we had $750,000 in sales estimates that we could be making from the international marketplace. They will look at that number and they say, we like this number, we like the sales agent, we'll give you a loan based on the rights you haven't sold yet. So here we are, we have a $750,000 sales estimate sheet. 300,000 of that we just pre-sold and we got contracts for that the bank is giving us a loan for, and we still have $450,000 left that we can sell. You know, we were thinking we're selling this when the movie is finished. Great. The bank will look at the $450,000 and will say, we'll give you half of that as a loan. So 450 divided by 2, 225, if I'm doing this right. You get a loan for $225,000 from the bank, which is called a gap loan. So that loan is not secured. The first loan that you got for the contracts is secured by the contracts. The second loan that is based on you hopefully selling the rest of $450,000 worth in estimates, it's based on that. It's based on an estimate. And the bank believes in you and the project and the sales agent enough to give you 50% of that as a loan. So now you get 20% as a gap loan because it translates to 20% of your budget. You get 30% from the bank as a pre-sale loan based on the contracts that you have made as pre-sales. You get 20% from the tax incentive lender. You get 70% now. And the balance is 30%, and that will be your equity. In a finance plan, that's a solid finance plan, you don't really want the equity to ever give you more than 35%, because when it's more, it becomes risky for them. A third of the budget covered by equity is something that you will always, I should say, in many cases, be able to pay back to the equity investor. And it's also something where the equity investor doesn't feel like he's taking all the risk. And it's good for you because you have to remember the equity investor is someone who will have ownership, and I'll explain that in a minute, and who get a premium. So here's what's going to happen. In a $1 million movie, the equity investor gives you what is left, which is 30%. So that's $300,000. It's 30% of your budget. $300,000 comes from the equity investor. The equity investor will charge a 20% premium on that money. That's just what they do. That's industry standard. Sometimes they charge less, sometimes they might even ask for more, but usually industry standard is 20%. So the $300,000 cost you another $60,000 if I calculated this right. So you're paying this guy back $360,000. Okay, but here's the other thing. 30% of the budget translates to theoretically 30% of the ownership in your movie. Now, in industry standard terms, it would be half of that, it would be 15%. So if an equity investor gives you 30% of your budget, the ownership in the IP that they will hold forever is 15%. If the equity investor gives you 50% of your budget, the ownership they will hold in the IP forever is 25%. If the equity investor gives you 100% of your budget, they own half of your movie. Not a good thing. So the risk for you, or the idea for you, is to keep the ownership, of course, with you. Because if you do a remake, you do a TV series out of the movie, you decide to write a book about the movie, you have a spin-off character, your main character becomes another movie, all the stuff is related to the copyright. And all of that, the equity investor can theoretically participate in, because they become your partners. Equity investors become your partners on your project, and you need to know that. So the lower the equity investment is, the better it is for you, because you keep a majority of the ownership of the IP. So the mezzanine financing is something I'm going to quickly talk about, because it's basically a mix between a loan and an equity investment. So when you look at your finance plan, we had the tax incentives for 20%, we had a bank loan for 50%, and we had the equity investor. So we were covered. But let's say the bank says, you know what, you don't feel so comfortable with this kind of sales agent that you choose. We only give you 10% as a gap loan. We're not going to give you the 20%. We don't believe in these estimates so much. So now you need to find another lender. You could, of course, ask the equity to increase to 40%, which in this case would be okay. But you could also find another bank-like lender, which would then be a mezzanine lender. And the mezzanine kind of sits in between. So the first is the bank loan that you would pay back. The next one is the mezzanine loan that you would pay back, and the equity would get paid back last. And the reason why I don't like mezzanine lenders is because they also ask for premiums, and they also ask for sometimes ownership. So if you slice the pie too much, the risk for the equity investor becomes higher, obviously, and you deal with too many people. So mezzanine is really something you only do if you have to, if you don't have any other chance to get it done. It is a better option for you to increase the equity. Now, remember earlier I said, don't do equity more than 35%. And here's the exclusion to that rule. There is a recoupment list. Remember when I said recoupment, people are recouping in that list of bank first, mezzanine next, equity next. It's called a waterfall. The industry standard dictates the place at which people recoup, the place at which investors recoup, the place at which the bank recoups. And it's important for you to know that a bank will always insist on recouping in first position. You will not get a bank loan unless you pay them back first. So the bank loan will get paid first. So the 30% pre-sale loan and your 20% gap loan will get paid back first. The 20% tax credit you don't have to pay, so that's great. So after the bank loan in our first finance plan, we would now pay the equity investor and the premium. But let's say the bank loan is less. Let's say the bank will only give you 40% because they only give you 10% of a gap loan. Now, the equity investor gets paid back sooner because there is less of a bank loan in front of him. So if the equity investor would take that position of the bank and just say, you know what, I'll cover the bank loan. If they pay you less, I'll just pay more. His recoupment position is not going to change because he's still recouping right behind the bank. So in a case where his recoupment position doesn't change, he can take over the bank loan. He can theoretically take over the entire 20% gap loan and give you 50%. That's something he can do. only if the equity investor takes over the bank recoupment position, he can give you more money. Otherwise not. So if the bank loan is the only thing that recoups in front of him, you're okay. You can tell, you know what, why don't you give me 50%? I'll get, some pre-sales from the bank and we're good. That's okay. But don't change his recoupment position. If he's pushed back because a mezzanine lender goes in between, that is when it becomes more risky for him. So when you do these deals, always remember the waterfall. First position bank, second position mezzanine, third position equity, or first position bank, second position equity. That's how you pay these people back. We have other options of elements that are non-recoupable. For example, when you do brand sponsorships or product integration, and when I say product integration, I don't mean product placement. There isn't a scenario today anymore, unfortunately, where you can show a Coke bottle once and Coke gives you hundreds of thousands of dollars just because we're showing the Coke bottle. Those things don't work anymore. Today, brands will work with you when you integrate them into the story. We take the Coke bottle, and the Coke bottle has a combination in the story where I talk about, I'm the lead actor, and I say, whenever I drink a Coke, I just feel better about myself, or something happens in the storyline. So the product is integrated into the character's lifestyle and story. Sometimes they don't even they don't even say the word, you just see it, but it's integrated somehow. A great example is, I don't know if any of you watch the Amazon series, The Boys. And many times they talk about the drink Fresca. You want a Fresca, and you see Fresca everywhere, and those heroes always talk about it, how great it is. It's hilarious. Clearly there is some combination going on. So when I talk about integration, I really mean integration into the story. So it's not about just showing it, it's about integrating it. And for that, brands will pay money. And that is money you don't have to pay back. So it's something to think about when you can align the story of your movie and the message of your movie with the message of a brand, and it elevates both. That is when it makes sense. The last financing component that you could get, remember early on we talked about the sales agent giving you an advance. That's called a sales agent MG in this scenario here. Now when that distributor, that sales agent gives you a minimum guarantee, remember that he is recouping that money from sales that he will be making, because he's not the actual distributor. So he still has to sell to distributors. So here's what's going to happen. The sales agent says, your movie is $1 million. I love it so much. I'm going to give you $200,000 of an advance. And you say, great. And then he's going to say, and obviously I'm going to recoup my advance from the sales I will be making. So I'll go out and make sales for you. And the first money that comes in, I'll pay myself back. Okay. But what does that do right now? Now the sales agent is in the same position than the bank would be in as it relates to recoupment. So that doesn't work. So you have to make a decision at that point. Are you going to take the gap loan from the bank, because that loan is also recouping from all the sales you will be making? Or are you taking the sales agent minimum guarantee that is repaid from all the sales you will be making? You have to choose one. You cannot do both. So whenever you get a sales agent minimum guarantee, you will not get a gap loan. You still get the pre-sale loan because the pre-sale loan is against contracts, so you're fine there, but you're not going to get a gap loan. So that's a decision you have to make. I want to run you through one just example of how these things would apply in reality, and then I'm going to answer questions. So it's a little longer today. So in our study, in our case here right now, we have a movie, and it's a mainstream script, so it's like a thriller. And we have an A-level kind of cast in the lead. And we're saying that our budget is $8 million. We did secure a sales agent for the movie. The sales agent is charging us a 15% sales fee for all the sales he will be making, and he will be charging us a 1% expenses. So altogether, for all the sales that the agent will be making on our behalf, it will cost us 16% to the sales agent as a fee, because his work needs to get paid. He gets 16% of whatever he's selling. Now, for the revenues, we are assuming that the sales agent did give us estimates of projected revenues of 75% of our budget from foreign. So in this case, the sales estimates show 75% of 8 million to be what we will be making out of international distributions. So that's good. The sales agent also was able to secure 35% of our budget in pre-sales. So of the 75%, 35 are actually being pre-sold as we're putting the movie together. Now here's the thing, when we finish the movie and we bring it to Sundance, we are then able to get $2 million for the US. So when the movie is finished, we're making $2 million from US distribution because the studio buys our movie at Sundance. That's the assumption for this case. We will be shooting this movie in a region where we get 20% tax incentive. That's good, and we get this as a loan. And we will, of course, get our pre-sales cash flowed by a bank. And then we get our gap loan as well, of 50% of whatever wasn't pre-sold. And we'll see later how much that is. The equity will pay the rest. So here's what that's going to look like in our finance plan. Let's take a look at our finance plan. Let me move this over. Finance plan. There we go. Our budget is $8 million right here. Now let's talk about the sales estimates. The sales agent projected 75% of $8 million to be our revenues from international distribution. 75% of $8 million is $6 million. This is an estimate. The sales agent then goes ahead and does pre-sales. He now secures actual pre-sale contracts for 35% of our budget. So 2.8 million in pre-sales are now being achieved. We are left with $3.2 million, which is the rest that we can sell. How do we get to this number? $6 million, all estimated to come out of international distribution revenues. $2.8 million then haven't been sold in distribution out of international, so that money is now sold. Now we have to deduct this from the 6 million and we're left with $3.2 million of rights we still have to sell and can sell after we did our pre-sales. The bank will give us a loan for the $2.8 million pre-sales, and the bank will give us 50% of 3.2 million that we can still sell. 50% of 3.2 million that we can still sell is $1.6 million. Our bank loan now is $4.4 million. The production incentive of the $8 million movie is 20%, which is $1.6 million. And the equity of the $8 million is $2 million, because after we put all this together, we add our bank loan to our production incentive. We have $6 million. We need another $2 million, and that's what our equity is going to be. So this is our finance plan as an example, applying what we talked about earlier. So now how does this look in the recoupment? How is this going to be repaid? When is it going to be repaid? Here's how that looks. We're assuming that our international sales estimates will be sold at $6 million. We're adding $2 million from the US, I'm sorry. So our worldwide distribution revenues for this movie end up being $8 million, because we're getting what we estimated to be getting out of international, and we're selling the movie at Sundance for $2 million when it's finished. And now we have $8 million that was sent to the collection agent, right? The collection agent charges us 1%. They get paid $80,000. The sales agent will have their fees 15 and 1. Here is what they're charging us for the $6 million that they sold. Maybe they, in this case, that we actually have them sell the US too, so they get the fees on all of this. The bank loan is going to get repaid here for $1.6 million. The equity is getting repaid next for $2 million. And the premium is getting paid. So the total expenses, after we pay all these people, is $5,360,000, and we're left with a profit of $2,640,000. And that is then going to be subject to profit participations, which you'll learn about later. But this is to show you how you're going to apply the finance elements and how they're being paid back. So now I'm going to look at all your questions. All right, let's see, let's go up here. Can we discuss the capacity of the streamers and recoupment? The streamers will likely want to buy one or more territories because Netflix, for example, is not just active in the US, but also very active in Germany, Spain, France. So they will likely come to you and say, we want to buy the territories that we are working in, that we're streaming in. However, what that means for you is Netflix is a buyer, a distributor like everyone else. So what you're going to tell them is, okay, you want the US, you want France, you want Germany, you want Italy, great. Here's my price for France, here's my price for Germany, here's my price for Italy, and here's what I'm thinking for the US. Let them make you an offer that includes the pricing for these territories. So you have to make sure that they at least hit your take numbers. When you sell to someone like Netflix who buys other territories, you need to make sure that what they pay you for the territories that they will be buying from you reflects your estimates for international territories. So that's how you deal with them. If they buy the entire world, they buy the entire project, ideally they pay you your budget, ideally more, and they pay you whatever they pay you. So they'll make you an offer for what they believe the value of your movie is. And hopefully it's more than what you paid for it, and hopefully it's enough to also pay everyone back. That's a decision you can make at that time. But if they only pay or buy certain territories, you have to look at your sales estimate sheet and make sure that whatever they pay for these other territories is reflective of the estimates and is in correspondence with your sales estimate sheet, at least on the take level. So Darren, did that answer your question? So we talked about sales agents going through the pre-sales, going through the agent. We talked about that. What is the other term of estimate aside from the take? Oh, so sales estimates are called sales estimates. They're called projections. They're called ultimates. They are done, and you're going to see a sales estimate sheet on the module. You're going to get an estimate sheet that shows every country on the left: Germany, Italy, Spain, China, Israel, Portugal, all the countries are on the left. Then the next column is going to be ask, like ask a question, and it will show numbers next to every country. That is the price the sales agent is going to ask the distributor to pay. And then the next one is the take, which is a contractual obligation that they have to you, that is the minimum each of the distributors have to pay for those rights. In reality, you're probably going to end up being somewhere in the middle between take and ask as to what the distributor is going to pay. If a distributor wants to pay less than the take price, you have to approve this transaction because you need to make sure that you can still make your finance plan work. In that case, the sales agent will call you and say, listen, Jeanette, Germany doesn't want to pay 10% as we have in our take. They only want to pay $80,000 instead of $100,000 for that $1 million movie. Do you want to take the deal or not? And then I have to make a decision, am I taking the deal or not? And that will be a decision that will be up to you to make. That was a question from, was it Meredith? No. Someone, forgot the name. Meredith asked me, do pre-sales courses? Yes, okay, we did that already. What is the other term? Oh yeah, here, Jeremy, you asked me for the other term. So it's basically take or ask. Negative pickup with a studio, the same licensing rights. No, so let's discuss what a negative pickup with the studio is. A negative pickup can be two things. When it happens, at the time you go to a studio and say, I have this great idea, this Born Identity franchise, is amazing. I'm pitching this to you as an idea. It's based on the book that this Belgian guy wrote, and it's Born Identity, and it's great. And the studio says, we love it. We're going to develop this. They are picking up your idea. They're paying you a rights fee, and they decide what the budget is, how much they're going to spend for distribution, how they're going to distribute. They own everything. It's all up to them. Now, you optioned the right from the Belgium guy to do Born Identity yourself. You developed it and you packaged Matt Damon on it. You went to the studio and said, listen, do you want to buy the US rights for this? I've Matt Damon, it's based on the book, it's a great franchise option, and the studio might say, you know what? I'm going to pre-buy the US rights because I want to release this in the US. In that situation, you're entering something that could potentially be more like a co-production agreement, where the US studio buys the rights to distribute in the US, and they also pay for the P&A, and they do everything else. So they basically own and control the US rights forever because they just bought them and they handle the distribution the way they want. There's a second option to that, where the US studio says, I'm going to buy it, but I don't want to theatrically release it. And you say, well, I really kind of want it to be theatrically released, so can we have a conversation about it? And then the studio says, well, if you find the P&A and you pay me for it, then I'm going to release it. So in that case, you are responsible for the P&A, and then you would do a deal with the studio where you kind of rent their services and they release it. So that's something you can do. So there's everything in between. Or you got the Born Identity movie done, the US rights were not sold, you figured it out through pre-sales, you figured it out through an equity investor, your loan, your tax credits, you got it done, you still have the US rights available, you're now going to the American Film Market or the Cannes Film Festival and you stream it there, and the studio comes and says, I want to buy this now for the US. That's also a pickup deal. So now they own the movie for the US. Another option could be you had a crazy billionaire who paid for the entire movie. You didn't use any pre-sales or anything because the guy is just insane and he did it, and you just went ahead and did it. Studio comes and says, I want to buy the entire movie and I want to own all rights. That's also a pickup deal. And in that case, hopefully the studio pays more than what you make the movie for and what you owe the investor. So these are kind of the different deals you can do with the studios. And by the way, this is very fast right now. You will read about this in much, much, much more details on the module. I just wanted to answer your question quickly in basically 1 to 3 sentences. So the studio covers the P&A in any case that they are acquiring the rights and agree to release the film on their own terms, or if they acquire the rights after the movie was made and release the film in their own terms. So those are the 2 scenarios where the studio would pay for the P&A. Max estimate, Jeremy, okay. Ask, not X, so it's going to be this. It's ask and take. Those are the 2. Darren, okay, Lord. Will there be a recording of the presentation available? Yes, there will be a recording of this presentation available, of course. So let me see how many people we have here. We have 27 people. Here's what I would like to do now. I think I answered your question. Oh, hold on. Is there a difference in position between gap and sales loan? No, there isn't, because they're in the same position. Look at the gap loan as a loan that is given to you that recoups from all the rights you still have to sell. There's no contracts, there's no nothing. All the rights you still have to sell are used to pay the gap loan back. The minimum guarantee that you get from the sales agent recoups against all the rights you still have to sell. So it recoups from the same bucket of rights at the same time, and that doesn't work because there is a recoupment corridor that needs to be adhered to, which means one person can only recoup from the same collateral at the same time. Collateral in this case is your rights, that's your revenues. So if you do a bank loan, you cannot do a sales agent minimum guarantee. If you do a sales agent minimum guarantee, you cannot do the bank loan because they both recoup from sales you still have to make in first position. So Jeremy, did that answer your question? Okay, so let me look at any questions that I'm missing here. What happens when you get offers that are below your take? As I mentioned earlier, when you get those offers that are below your take, Jeremy, you as the producer have the right to approve them or not. They will not happen without your approval unless you didn't put that in your contract, and then the sales agent can kind of do what they want. But usually it's in your contract that it says anything below take, you have the right to approve or not. So you can say no to a right, to a sale like that. What else is there? How are the loan interests covered? Okay, Wanda, what I did today, I gave you a very simple finance plan that has not yet incorporated the fact that you obviously pay interest to the bank. And you will learn about how that works in the module. I'm just going to give you one answer. The bank will charge interest, and it will deduct the interest up front, and then will give you a loan amount that is minus the interest. So when you get a loan for $1 million and you have to pay 10% interest, you get $900,000. The bank will deduct the interest before they give you the loan. And the way they are being repaid is when the loan is being repaid. So in essence, what you have available in your finance plan is going to be the bank loan minus the interest. That's just the basic answer, and you'll learn a lot about it a lot more in the module. But yes, you will obviously pay interest to the bank, and thank you for that question, and it will be deducted from the loan. Let's see. The AFM is going to begin, it's a run for early sign up. So AFM is apparent, Darren is asking about AFM. It's about, what is it, $156 to sign up? Yeah, I would do it. I mean, it's up to you. TV, yes, the AFM does both film and TV. I mean, if you want to strictly work on TV, I would sign up for MIPCOM or MIPTV in Cannes. And I think they're going to be online in April and October. That is more for television. So if you want to save that money and do that, you can do that for when the Cannes MIPTV and MIPCOM is happening in April and October. Let me see if I have everyone else here covered. Negative picker, we talked about this. Sorry, I'm scrolling down here. The interest is covered. That is covered. That is covered. I think I got it all. All right, so we have 27 people. What I would like to do, if you don't mind, I would like just to introduce yourselves a little bit. Just basically tell me, of course, who you are, what you're doing right now, so we get to know you a little bit, just like 2 minutes each. Who you are, where you are, and what you do right now. So I'm going by the list that I'm seeing. So I'm going to unmute the first one on my list, which is Abigail. Abigail, can you tell us? I'm going to unmute you. Where's Abigail?
Hi, my name's Abigail. I started working for a producer when I was 16 as a script reader. I then worked on a couple of his TV shows, and I fell in with a couple up and comings around last year, and I produced a short film with them, which we were like right on the verge of completing post when COVID hit, which is kind of thrown everyone out of loop, but we're doing festival submissions, and we just had our meetings about social media. So that's what
Great. I want to learn about that project, so make sure you send that to me. Thank you, Abigail.
I will. Absolutely. Ron Perlman is in it.
Oh, nice. That's good cast. Yay. Yeah. I love that.
Nice.
Wow. I'm trying to unmute Beppy. I hope I spelled that name right. Beppy, can you introduce yourself? I'm not able to unmute him or her.
Oh,
yeah, there we
sorry.
go.
Are you talking to me, Beppy?
Yes, Beppy.
Okay, sorry, someone knocked on my door and I had to run downstairs. Hi, I'm Beppy. I'm in Dallas. I recently graduated with a focus in directing and writing. And yeah, is there anything else?
So you're a writer-director learning about finance?
Yes, I want to make sure that I'm never, you know, duped. I want to be knowledgeable about all aspects so that, you know, I can deal with people properly.
I think it's very smart to learn about that side of the business, because I do think that when you work on the creative side, it's good to know how the finance side works, because it can affect, you know, how you put your projects together. I think it's very smart you're doing that. Congrats. Yeah. So the next one I have on my list, I hope I spell the name right. I apologize if I butcher it. Is it Shi Sung.
Yep, you got me correct.
Hey, thank you for
Hi.
that.
Yes, my name is Chi. Also, I just graduated from college, and I moved from Chicago to LA. I actually got a bachelor degree in business, and then accidentally I got an internship in the film industry, and then fell in love with the filmmaking process. And that's the reason why I'm taking this class. I want to know more about the film industry and to see how I combine my knowledge about business into it. So yeah, that's me.
That's great. Well, I definitely want to know more about what you're working on in this internship. So see if we can learn something from you.
I actually work in the post production,
That's great.
and yeah, basically how money flows, the cast. It's kind of like the database of the whole
Yeah.
feature films process, like you handling solid Excel sheets and things like that.
Great. Well, thank you for sharing that. Darren.
Yep.
Is it Darren?
Yep, it's Darren.
Hey,
Hi,
Darren.
guys.
Hi.
I was so engrossed
You
with.
again. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. It was so great. Jeanette came to the PGA, and I was mentoring the diversity program, and I was so wowed by everything she said. And sorry about my dog panting behind me. I have a talent management with actors, writers, and directors, and then I'm also a producer. But after Jeanette came to speak with us, I saw the last 3 films that I worked on with my partners. I saw how problematic it was. So I'm here to get the nuts and bolts of everything and to never do those projects again, move forward the right way. So thank you, Jeanette. I really look forward.
Well, I am so happy to have you, Darren, and I definitely want to know about the project to maybe dive into it a little more and help you a little specific. Yeah?
Oh, okay, it's a great movie. The last one was a great movie, but it's just never going to see the light of day money-wise.
Who knows? Who knows? Maybe there's always something called re-editing. You never know.
Well, no, it's already streaming. It's on Amazon. It's called
it is?
Like anybody can check it out. It's with Finn Whitrock and Josh Peck. So
Oh, nice. I definitely will check it out.
great soundtrack. But thank you. I'm really glad to be here.
Glad to have you. I'm trying to unmute Ella. There we go, Ella. There you are. Hey, how are you?
Hi. Sorry, I'm using my daughter's computer. So my name's Letitia. So I haven't changed
Oh, okay. All is well. Thanks for letting us know.
Yeah, I'll change it next time. But I'm just a student at the UCLA Extension, and I'm going through the producing program. And I'm in the process of developing my first short story. And this class just goes hand in hand in the financing part. And
So you're doing is it a short movie? So you're working on a short story that you're writing, or is it when you say short story, it's going to be a short?
it's a short movie that I'm co-writing with my daughter.
Yay, with your daughter. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Well, I definitely want to know more about that. So when you're ready to share it, please send it over.
Yeah, I will, definitely. Thank you.
For sure. All right. So I'm trying to unmute Eric. Eric,
Yes.
are you there?
Hello. Yes. Hello. Yeah, my name is Eric Valderrama. I'm in the Business and Management of Entertainment Certificate program, and I'm looking to basically, I guess, become a producer. I'm new to the business. I have no experience currently in the entertainment business. I'm actually coming out of the accounting field. So I kind of have an understanding of finance and accounting, and I'm kind of looking to pivot my career into entertainment as a producer. And as I mentioned, I'm a full-time student. I have no prior experience in the industry. I'm kind of just here to learn about it and go from there.
Right. I think coming from accounting is great, honestly. And you're going to notice that the way the financing works in our industry is a little different, for lack of a better word.
When I watch the ending credits, I always look for the production accountant. So, but to see how many there are involved. But I'm kind of looking more toward the production aspect. So, looking to kind of learn how that happens, and uh, as far as what I would produce, I don't really know. Maybe, I guess kind of just look at anything at this point, just to learn about the business in general.
Well, it's a great. This is definitely a good start to learn about producing. I mean, the way we do this here is, what I always try to do is give you the tools to start from scratch. Like if you didn't know anything else, if you didn't come, if you like you're not coming from this industry, and what do you do? Where do you start? So that's what I'm aiming to structure the course at. If you stumble over anything that, if any questions, or if you feel it's going too fast, please always reach out to me, because it is a lot of information and sometimes it could be a little overwhelming. But it's good that you have an accounting background. That's going to be helpful. Thank you for that. Who am I having here? Is it Isaac? Rappaport? Isaac?
Ernest?
Oh, sorry. Hold on.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Hi there. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you? Hi, everybody.
Hey.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
My name is Isaac. I'm originally from Miami Beach, but I live in Los Angeles now. I started my career at film school at NYU, and then I moved to LA right after, where I produced my first feature. And then I launched into a directing career of music videos, fashion advertorials, and commercials. And then I really didn't like anyone in that world, and it wasn't very sustainable long term. So I decided to transition into film and TV, because that was always my plan. And now I am producing mostly, but I'm attached to direct one of them, but 2 features and 2 television series. So right now I'm in the development phase on all of them, / pitching for development financing. And actually, we're also out to investors and pre-sales, whatever, going on. They're all in different phases, but that's the gist of me.
Well, I like the fact that you're working on different projects in different phases, and I'm always interested to hear about how the development process is working on. So I would appreciate if you get to a point where it becomes interesting, loop me in. I'd love to hear more about it, because maybe there is something that is interesting to us as well, where we can help as a company.
Oh, for sure.
Feel free to reach out. Ernest.
Hi, Jeanette and
Hi.
States. So I am in the certificate program for the business and management of entertainment. And among many other things, I am currently the executive producer and host of a television travel docuseries about friendship and connection around the world called Fly Brother with Ernest White II. It is now currently out on public television stations nationwide and Create, which is PBS's cable network. I just moved to Vancouver across a closed border a month ago, and I'm here in Canada to establish a film, television, and digital media studio focused on BIPOC, LGBTQ+, and over 60 narratives, which are voices that have always existed, but just haven't had the amplification that they deserve. The studio is called Presidio Pictures. Right now we are in pre-production for a Canadian version of the travel series I just described. We're also developing season 2 and then the first scripted series, which is an adaptation of a short story that I had published a few years ago. It'll be adapted to a 7-episode dramatic miniseries. And so I've got all the IP in the world, but I need to know the financing side. So help.
Well, you're definitely versatile. Congratulations on all the many things that you're doing and all the stuff that you're doing and the important things that you're doing. Very, very impressive. Very impressed. On the financing side, I think we can help you structure a few things, so no worries there. And anything that you want to run by me that you have actively working where you want to have some feedback, always feel free to email me.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Glad to have you. James, are you there?
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, my name is James. I am a law student I'm concentrating on business and tax law and also corporate finance. And I have a personal interest in film finance and entertainment law. It's something I want to explore a little bit here, get a firmer footing in that area. And I just find this topic to be very interesting.
That's great. Well, you definitely have a great, already great background to be doing this. Law, of course, is fantastic. A lot of the things, as you know, in this industry are driven by contracts. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm not a lawyer, but I will definitely be able and happy to give you some input on how to, you know, put it in context on the legal side, how to put the financial aspects in context on the legal side. Well, I'm glad to have you, and it's exciting, and I'd love to hear your feedback on some of the things and your thoughts.
You can be here. Thank you.
Of course. So who else did I have? I unmuted someone, and now I forgot who I unmuted.
I think that might be me.
Yes, that's you. Thank God, Jeremy. Go.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Jeremy Bellinger. I'm a comedy writer and director. By day, I'm a commercial producer, so doing a lot of the nuts and bolts of production. In my previous life, I did a lot of entertainment producing, and I also handled a lot of brand integrations and represented clients like Pepsi and Microsoft and Harley Davidson and yeah, a lot of corporate brands. So, but right now I'm trying to figure out the best way to set up my first feature that I'm hoping to direct, that I'm finishing the script now. And it's a romantic, or it's a low budget comedy horror. It's a romantic comedy set in paranormal activity world. So.
Well, that sounds very commercial, I have to tell you. Because whenever you have a paranormal / horror type thing and you add a genre to it to make it a little more interesting, it becomes commercial. So that's great. And I'm glad to have someone in the mix that can vouch for the brand integration components and how best to do them. So maybe I have you give a lecture on that next time, since you come from that world. Well, I'm very happy to have you, and I'd love to read the project whenever it's ready to be shown and whenever you're comfortable.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Great. So who did I have next here? We have Isaac, we have James. Is it
me?
Yeah, go.
Hello, my name is Jessica Vollhardt. I live in Los Angeles since 3 years, but I'm born in Germany, so I'm German too. I spreche Deutsch. Yeah. I'm really excited. I didn't know you're German before, and so exciting to me. So yeah, my background is, so I lived in Berlin, and I'm born in Frankfurt, and so my first career, I changed my career to film. My first career was real estate management. I worked many years in the headquarters in Berlin for Deutsche Bahn, and you definitely know that. And so I was responsible for all real estate sales and real estate developments nationwide, and we have our offices nationwide in every big city. So I was managing that, and I studied my bachelor's in business administration, and my major was in real estate management. So, and after, many years, I changed my career. That's why I came to Los Angeles. I did my MFA in acting for film. So I'm an actress. I did that in Berlin too, just for fun. But then I moved to Los Angeles and said, okay, I can do that. So, and while I was studying acting and working in the industry a little bit last year, I produced a couple of short films. I wrote my own short film and produced it and acted in it. So, and then I was more and more interested in producing as well, besides acting. And since I have a business background, so it made sense for me to combine the creative part with with the business, with producing. So that's why I wanted to study it, to have a foundation. That's so typical German, I guess.
Very typical German.
So, and so I want to combine acting and producing, and I think I want to be a producer here in Los Angeles.
I think it's a good choice. I mean, I'm also as well now you know I'm from Cologne, Germany, where I grew up, and I won the green card about 20 years ago. And I did not come from this industry either. I actually studied business and kind of stumbled into the entertainment industry by just doing a temp job for RTL Television in Cologne. It's a large network, and through the work there with talent like yourself and with producers and network executives, and I learned everything so quickly because I was in the entertainment division for RTL Television, which was booming at the time. I figured out, as you, I like the creative world and I like the combination of being creative and being business minded. So it kind of went with my personality. So I can relate to this very much. When I came to Los Angeles, I'm sure you know it too. A lot of the things that we discover here being German is that pretty much everything is bullshit, excuse my French. And you have to make your own rules. So you, as an actor, you decide, I do the acting thing, but I now want to take control and I want to do the producing thing, because with the producing, you are controlling your destiny a little better. For me, I came as a producer, and of course they have producers here like they have sand on the beach. So for me, my in was the financing, because I brought money from Germany. So I became a financier pretty early on in my career. And like you, I chose something that was a niche here, and you choosing something that gives you a potential to have a career that you can control.
Exactly. That's really my point too. Like I need to have the control. And I was told many times during productions, when I was acting, actually, I kind of took over the producing part as well. And yeah, because I'm so used to do that. So I'm like, let's make a career out of it.
You can make a career out of it. And I think it's great because you can do acting too. You put your projects together, you come from a banking side, you know how the financing works. It's then just about doing the right thing, putting the right elements together the way they're supposed to put together. And what you learn in this class is I share a lot of the things that I did wrong. I'm sharing my mistakes so that hopefully you guys don't have to fall into the same traps I did. And I also share a few little secrets that people don't ever tell you, and I wish they would have told me. So I'm very supportive of anyone who comes from the outside world, like a lot of you do, to try to enter this career or this entertainment world in a way that it makes sense. And some of you are already deeply in it, and that's fantastic. And I love that too. So you can optimize it a little. But thank you for sharing, Jessica. That's awesome.
Thank you.
I'm trying to. Oh yeah, hold on. Oops. No, I just unmuted him. Yin. Is it Ying?
Yeah, Jing.
Hi, Jing. Hi. How are you?
Hi, guys. My name is Jing Wen. I graduated from film school, specialized in post-production. I'm a freelance post PA and editor right now, and located in LA. So if anyone are looking for post PA or editor, I will email you my resume as soon as possible.
Right.
So I want to learn about film financing and broaden my knowledge for the industry. So
I think that's smart. And you know, post-production is essential. A lot of shows are made in post. I produced 2 seasons of a dog show. It's like the next thing after Dog Whisperer that we did. And we shot, of course, all these misbehaving dogs in these family homes. And I tell you, editing, so important.
Yeah.
Any of this makes sense.
Yeah.
God. Yeah, I might get back to you on that for sure.
Cool.
Oh God. So let's get to, is it John? I hope, did I unmute? Did I mute? Oh, these stupid buttons here. Oh, come on. John, can you unmute yourself? Or,
Yeah, I think you got me now.
You now.
Okay.
Hey.
So I'm John Skidlark. I'm from Minnesota, and I'm an attorney. I'm in the UCLA Extension Business and Management of Entertainment certificate program. I want to kind of switch careers. I've worked in healthcare for the last 5 years and wanted to get back to my roots. My undergrad is in English and creative writing. So I was job searching one day a couple years ago, and the most interesting thing I saw was a development executive position. And I'm like, yep, I want to do that. So, switch careers, and now I'll see what comes of that.
Well, writing is fun. I have to tell you, if you really enjoy that, I didn't start writing. I mean, I worked on scripts because it's part of the job. You have to work on scripts, you have to develop scripts, you have to find something that you like. And that is the development work, to me, honestly, is the most fun part of the project process, because you can birth a baby, you can make this idea come to life, and it's just the most beautiful experience. I'm glad you're doing that. I'm telling you, this is very rewarding. I wrote this very first script from a series which I mentioned earlier because I couldn't find a writer that, you know, when you have something in your mind, you just want to get down a certain way and then no one really gets it. And then you just do it. And my husband is like, you have nothing else to do. You're teaching and you're doing producing. I'm like, yes, I want to just do this. It took me 3 months to write that stupid script, but it turned out great. And I was like, oh my God, this is so much fun, the writing. So I got the writing back now. So you, John, know how that feels.
I do.
Okay. Well, great. Thank you. Great to have you. Thanks for sharing this. So I think I have the next one here. Is it Johnson?
Hi, hello.
Hi.
Hi, Jeanette. Hi. So, I graduated last year with a BFA in acting. Currently in LA, California. But over the course, and especially during when I did my thesis, I actually found a lot of interest in producing, and I am interested in the business side of the industry as well. So right now I'm taking the certificate of the business and management of entertainment. I'm also currently working as an executive assistant at an entertainment investment company while applying for my master program in producing. Yeah.
Very good. Well, we're glad to have you. Thank you for sharing that. Do we have, is it Jonathan? No, did we have Jonathan already?
Hi, everyone. I'm Jonathan.
Hi, how are you, Jonathan? Thank you.
Good. Nice to see everyone. So I'm interested in making inspiring movies with a message. So along the lines of Hidden Figures or The Blind Side, sort of participant media type movies. I've been in the industry part-time for a little more than a year, and I'm producing a couple of movies that are in the development stage, mostly biopics. One is about Walter Cronkite and his his desire to maintain his integrity amidst the face of internal persecution. And another one is about a female scientist that people need to know about. And so I've also started to get more involved on the screenwriting side of things. So I've taken a screenwriting class at UCLA Extension, and I'm taking one this term as well.
So you are mainly looking to, is it develop or produce?
Produce. So right now they're in development, but I'd like to take it further down the line. So I think this class is really helpful in terms of understanding the full value chain and how to push those forward, especially from the financing standpoint.
Yeah, and I do think that if you are working in the area of doing, you know, these kind of movies, first of all, I think they're important. I also think they're commercial, and I think they're very valuable in times like these. So I think the genre that you're choosing and the area that you're going in relation to the content that you want to create is perfect. It's perfect timing for this. I'm very happy to hear that.
Thank you.
So I will try to help you with that and get you on your way there. Do we have Joyce?
Hi, Jeanette.
There.
I'm Joyce. I am a directing certificate student at UCLA Extension. I'm also a writer, and I'm currently working on a feature sci-fi thriller script, and I've completed a short script that I do want to produce, and that's partly why I'm in this class, because I don't know how to get the money for it. I personally don't have any money, and I want to be able to, you know, hire the cinematographers I need, or you know, the crew I need. And since COVID's happening, everything's probably more expensive now with how things are done on set. So I just want to figure out how to get the money, how to maybe eventually earn money from it. And I'm also working, developing on a TV show with a friend. And I just need to learn more about the business side of things, so I don't have to do day jobs anymore and can focus on what I love doing.
That is, and by the way, I love your background. It looks amazing. I'm not technically inclined because I don't know how to do the background thing, but this looks awesome. Yes, so we will get you on your way, and it is it's going to be a little journey, but I'm sure you'll get there. And if you have any specific questions, please always reach out, especially when you're working on the TV show and what you guys are putting together. Happy to take a look and see if I can be of help in any way.
All right, great. Thank you so much.
Sure. Meredith, are you there?
Hi, yes. So my name is Meredith. I live in Los Angeles and I have a humanities and an arts background. So kind of non-traditional. And about 4 years ago, I had finished art school and decided that I wanted to make an image of the physical internet. So like what the internet looks like from start to finish, very abstract idea. I started cold calling companies and finally found a company that would allow me to do this, which is a Chinese company called Huawei Technologies. And at the time, that company hadn't had any kind of like press or media attention, so I shot the film and then came back to the United States, and then an Academy Award winner signed on as the EP. And that went to Sundance. And so now I'm developing a nonfiction series about the US-China tech war, quote unquote. But I've done a lot of the development work and I'm kind of paying for a lot of the development as well. And so I'm working with a reputable nonfiction sales agent that wants to be the EP, but I also want to know how to retain rights and kind of wear a producing hat throughout that process.
Yeah. First of all, I'm dying to see that film. Where can I
send it to you?
What? Yeah, please do. Please send that to me. That sounds fascinating. Just the way you describe it, it's like, what?
I know, like it kind of, it's a weird entry into the industry, so I get like nervous talking about it.
Oh
but
no, it sounds great. It sounds great. It sounds inspiring. That's what I mean. I cannot wait to see this. So please send me the link. I would love to see this for sure. Yeah, and with regards to working with the sales agent, I think it's good that you do that early on. I would be careful, as I mentioned earlier, in sharing any IP. I don't think it's necessary for the sales agent to have IP. I mean, they can have an EP credit. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think you should be careful in keeping the IP locked in with you, and especially when you're just developing it. If someone is ready to pay for rights or pay for production or give you money, then you can have a conversation about sharing that version or the IP. But without that, just be a little careful, especially when you just did something like this that went to Sundance and got some legs. So yeah, people are going to be around you like little sharks. A little careful. Okay, well, thank you, Meredith. Can't wait to see this. Do we have, is it Naris? Naris, did I say
It's Nargis, yes. Hi.
Hi there, how are you?
I'm good, how are y'all? As you might have noticed, it's nighttime here. I'm in Morocco right now.
Oh my God.
It's almost 9 p.m. I live here now. I did my bachelor's in the US and I have an MBA. I've been working in finance for 4 years with the UN and the diplomatic mission right for now. And I'm just so in love with movie making. And I thought I need the career change. So I Googled entertainment finance class, found yours, and just registered for it. So here I am.
That's amazing. Well, I cannot wait to Morocco. Morocco is exciting. There's no doubt about it. This is quite something.
You should all come when COVID ends.
I have not been. It's still on my, that's one of the countries on my bucket list, for sure.
Perfect.
Yeah, so as you go in and dive into this a little more, you have a business background, so I think it's going to be fairly uncomplicated for you, and the finance, of course. But if you have questions, let me know, especially if you want to put some of the stuff in motion where you live. There are some people in Morocco that I've worked with or had interactions with in the film industry. Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is it Nina who is next? Am I doing this right here?
Yeah, hi, Nina.
Hi, Nina. Hi.
Hi, so I live in LA. I'm pursuing the producing certificate from UCLA Extension, so I'm also brand new to this industry. Before this, I did events for a couple of years and I got my degree in psychology.
Great, fantastic. So what is your interest to be more creative or producing, financing? What are you thinking?
Producing, so I'm pursuing that certificate and I just want to learn all aspects of from beginning to end, basically, so I know what I'm doing when the time comes.
Well, then you should definitely chose the right class for that. Okay, well, thank you for this. And then, did we do Sabina yet or not?
Not yet.
Perfect.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
I actually also was born and raised in Germany, quite close to where Jessica grew up in Wiesbaden. And I've been living in well, close to like New York, Connecticut area for about 11 years. And I'm currently a senior supervisor for characters at Blue Sky Studios, which is a 3D animation feature film studio. So I don't know if you've seen the Ice Age films, so that's pretty much what we were making there. And we basically were owned by Fox now, by Disney, and part of that merger. And what I do there is I basically oversee the character creation for all characters in the film. And in the recent years, I've been much more involved with managing, because my group is 50 people. And I've been also very much involved with bidding and scheduling current and future projects, also projects that are still in development. And because of that, I've really developed a strong interest in the producing and the financing process. And that's why I'm here.
That's great. Now with COVID, do you see an increase of visual effect driven films or animation?
Yeah, I mean, we've been really lucky as well, because for 3D animation, we were able to really quickly all work from home, because we basically need just a workstation and screens. And so we were lucky, even though Disney had a lot of layoffs, as we just recently saw. Our area was actually not affected at this point, which is great. And I have seen definitely there's a lot of interest. We have some new projects, and that's pretty exciting. And in that case, I feel pretty fortunate.
Right. So are you planning on producing animated stuff, or are you open to live action? Animated mainly?
I think I'm very much interested in animated films or series, but also visual effects, because that's extremely close to, and actually that there was a lot that I used to do, but currently it's 3D feature film, but I'm very interested in both of that, but maybe visual effects films with a strong visual effects part in it.
Which is great, because that's a very leading genre. I mean, visual effects is sci-fi and also action, thriller, paranormal. All these are genres that are very, very commercial. So I think you're in the right place there too. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Do we have Wanda? Or did I do Wanda already?
No, I'm here.
Hey.
So, my name is Wanda. I have a labor psychology. I come from the corporate HR world. I'm looking into transitioning into the film industry. I'm taking the business and management of entertainment certificate. I'm just curious or willing, hopeful to translate my skills, my people management skill, negotiation skills into the entertainment world. And hopefully I'm kind of aiming towards development or production. I'm still hesitant to, I'm not sure which one I'm gonna go for, but they're both appealing to me.
Right. I think it's going to, I mean, in many cases in the producing world, it combines. And development is a huge part of any production and any initiation of any project. And the physical production side is a little different. If it's just physical production, you're not going to need as much of a development background. for that. But it's a different animal. But I like the combination of producing and developing, because then you get to do all of it. You get to do the development, you get to do the physical production, you get to do the packaging, you get to do the distribution and finance. So it's an overall thing where you can see early on, you know, what area do you gravitate to most, and then you can swing to that one.
Yeah, I kind of like the idea of creating something or taking something, molding it, and then seeing it through.
Yes.
So I might do it all.
That's producing, my dear. Sorry to break it to you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think, did I overlook anyone? Is anyone here who did not introduce themselves that I forgot to unmute?
Yes, you forgot me.
Sorry.
That's okay. That always happens to the lawyers.
Oh boy, I don't think so. No, but
people only remember us when they need us, but that's okay. So I've been a lawyer for over 25 years, and I came into the entertainment industry about 8 years ago. I work for Viacom CBS Americas. So I work for the Americas International Division, and I work in production. And my reason for wanting to take this course is that more and more our business teams and our creative teams look to me and to our legal department to provide creative solutions to get their projects done. At the end of the day, everybody, whether you're a big conglomerate or you're a small indie, everybody just wants to create content, and they want somebody to help guide them and give them new ways of doing things. So that's why I'm here, and you all are all a very exciting group of people, and I look forward to working with you.
Well, we are excited to have you on our team. Now with a company like Viacom, I think some creative ways of doing things and creating content. I mean, you guys have networks all over the world. I think that some of the international co-production rules and regulations in providing subsidy financing and making content feasible and interesting to be produced might also be something that could be interesting to you.
No, it's fascinating, and of course there's tax incentives all over the world that we try to tap into. Yeah.
Oh, great. Well, any questions you have that are specific to any kind of country that you're looking for, let me know. Many of them I've worked with, and I'm happy to give some pointers. I think we have an exciting group. What I like about all of you is that your background is very versatile. But the one thing you all have in common, thank God, is you're looking for the overall structuring view and ways of putting stuff together that is solution driven and creative. And I think that's something we can offer here, or I can offer you. And as we go through the next 3 months, if there's again anything specific or anything you get stuck with, always feel free to reach out. Does anyone have any questions for me before we end this recording? Everyone has no questions, I like. Okay. Oh.
Actually,
yeah, go.
I do have a question. If typically your sessions on Saturdays, what's the time frame for them?
So just to repeat that again, the time frame I have scheduled now is every second Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Again, every session will be recorded. These sessions are not mandatory because the class is an online class and it is designed to work without sessions like these. I just put them in as a courtesy because I find this exchange very stimulating to me, and I think it's also inspiring to others in the group. So I do this to kind of offer clarification on some things. What I also do is I run through modules to give a context of what you're supposed to see in the next module to kind of provide a focus, but it's not necessary. You're going to get the material one way or the other. So to answer your question, long story short, every Saturday from 10 a.m. on, usually they're not as long as this today because today I wanted to meet everyone. So usually it's about an hour and a half to walk through things and answer questions. But every Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time is when I would be doing this, either from here or from wherever I am. I travel sometimes too, but I will be doing it. And office hours are also on Saturdays, just later. But you can, and they're all announced on the calendar. But if anyone has a question or wants to have a conversation with me, I'm usually pretty easy in just putting something in my calendar book, and then we can meet up whenever it's convenient for everyone. So I'm not as strict about it. But yeah, so enjoy the modules, watch all the videos that are on the modules. And again, if something is confusing, you know where to find me. Any other questions from anyone? All right, so I will conclude the recording. Thank you guys for taking the time this morning. I know it was a little long, but at least we know each other now. Yay. Have a great weekend, everyone. Thank you. You were fantastic.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks so
you.
much.
Thank you. Bye.